Chapter 265. Lin Yuan flapped his four wings and flew very skillfully in the air. This was not the first time he had used the wings formed by the day and night spirit silver feathers to fly. In the previous month of training, Lin Yuan had not only mastered the technique of controlling the source sand, but he had also learned how to use the wings formed by the source sand's metal consume manifestation to fly. At the same time, he had also learned how to use the source sand's exclusive skill, metal consume manifestation, to fly. At that time, Lin Yuan had chosen the day and night spirit silver as the second metal for the source sand's metal consume manifestation to devour. A large part of the reason was that the day and night spirit silver was almost weightless. The weightless wings formed by the day and night spirit silver could increase Lin Yuan's flying speed and save more spiritual power while flapping. Now, the day and night spirit silver feathers that the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand had separated from the sand grains were already very different from before. After referring to many flying fays, Lin Yuan finally chose the feather shape of the platinum flying fay, Divine Travel Black Swallow. The Divine Travel Black Swallow might be very uncomfortable to ride. However, the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feather shape determined that it was better at flying. Of course, Lin Yuan had also made some improvements to the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feather shape. He had reduced the thickness of the feather's edges and made them sharper. At the same time, many bubble-like hollows were formed inside the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feathers. This improvement could allow the limited 1 cubic meter of day and night spirit silver to produce more feathers. After Lin Yuan injected spiritual power into the hollow parts of the feathers, the black feathers would turn white according to the day and night spirit silver's metal characteristics. It could greatly increase the white feathers' cushioning and protection against external attacks. Lin Yuan's current flying speed was extremely fast, almost comparable to an ordinary gold flying fay. However, this kind of flying required a certain amount of spiritual power. Although Lin Yuan did not conduct spiritual power into the day and night spirit silver to turn the wings white, he still needed to consume spiritual power to maintain the flapping of these four wings. It was not like the countless sand grains that the source sand had created underground, which could be freely controlled according to the source sand's consciousness. During Lin Yuan's flight, the source sand was also rapidly creating sand grains. At the same time, it gathered the yellow sand in the direction of the flame vortex. As soon as the flames that contained the aura of living beings soared into the sky. At the entrance of the dimensional rift, the middle-aged man who was spying on the adventurers entering the dimensional rift, revealed a horrified and fearful expression. At that moment, almost all the adventurers who were training in the controlled class 3-dimensional rift saw the soaring green flames and the scarlet flames that covered the green flames and formed a flame vortex. In the abyss dimensional rift, such a situation could only be caused by the strange flames that were produced by the abyss dimensional rift. However, he had never heard of any strange flames that could cause such a change in the dimensional space. In the abyss dimensional rift, many adventurers or adventure squads who thought they were capable headed toward the scarlet flame vortex. Of course, there were also some adventurers who wanted to try their luck. However, most of the adventurers wanted to leave this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift had become a place of trouble due to the dimensional spatial anomaly. However, the scarlet abyss vortex was absorbing the flame energy from the class 3 abyss dimensional rift at a very fast speed. In this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift, the temperature of 50 degrees Celsius all year round was now less than 20 degrees Celsius. The temperature of less than 20 degrees Celsius wasn't even as high as the royal capital's temperature in late autumn. This caused the adventurers who were already used to the temperature in the controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift to involuntarily feel a chill all over their bodies. Many of the adventurers who had the intention to retreat were preparing to leave this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift. However, they suddenly realized that this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift had transformed due to the extremely powerful scarlet flame vortex's absorption of the fire elements, causing the dimensional spatial entrance to be closed. This also meant that this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift had become a zone that prohibited entry and exit. In the dimensional rift, all communication methods were unable to be used. This naturally included the star web card. Such a situation immediately caused the adventurers at the abyss dimensional rift's entrance to panic. At that moment, the king-class expert that the Radiance Federation Spirit Guards had dispatched to this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift stood up and maintained the situation. The Radiance Federation's controlled dimensional rifts were usually managed and maintained by the Spirit Guards. Every 10 years, the dimensional rifts would be active, and the Spirit Guards would close the previously controlled dimensional rifts. Once the active period was over, the spirit guards would once again choose a suitable dimensional rift to control. It would form a resource for the Radiance Federation's younger generation to train and the Guild Alliance's registered spirit chi professionals to maintain their livelihood. The spirit guards had arranged for Zhao Jianxiang to guard this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift in the outskirts of the royal capital. This meant that Zhao Jianxiang was highly regarded by the spirit guards. At the same time, Zhao Jianxiang's strength was definitely extremely formidable. After becoming a king-class expert, the Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift below Zhao Jianxiang was no longer the first one that he had guarded. Even though Zhao Jianxiang was experienced and knowledgeable, this was the first time he had seen such a dimensional rift. Just as Zhao Jianxiang was presiding over the situation and calming the adventurers down, the middle-aged man who usually stayed at the dimensional rift's entrance, had unknowingly left this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift's entrance. He hurriedly headed in the direction of the scarlet flame vortex. If this middle-aged man was placed in a crowd, no one would want to take a second look at him. The shock in his eyes was slowly covered by fear. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment and finally reached out his hand to pull off a thin mask from his face. After this thin mask was pulled off by the middle-aged man, it slowly turned into a brown worm that looked like soft mud. If the spirit guard Zhao Jianxiang, who was guarding this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift, saw this mud-like brown fat worm, he would definitely exclaim. This mud-like brown fat worm wasn't a fey produced by the Radiance Federation's territory. This fey came from the Dark Federation, which was extremely far away from the Radiance Federation. It was considered the Dark Federation's signature fey. After this middle-aged man took off his mask, there was a very strange talisman on his face. This strange talisman seemed to form a rather sinister crow. The middle-aged man took out a crystal bottle and hesitated for a long time. This crystal bottle contained a drop of black blood. The middle-aged man finally smeared the black blood on the strange talisman that looked like a sinister crow on his face. In an instant, the middle-aged man's eyes became slack as though he was dead. Just as the middle-aged man was about to fall to the ground, his originally dark green eyes suddenly surged with scarlet. This scarlet pupil had a triangular pattern in the middle, which was just like a crow's beak. At that moment, the middle-aged man's aura had completely changed. After the middle-aged man recovered, he crushed the mud-like brown fat worm in his hand and said in a sinister voice, "Useless thing. Useless thing. You can't even complete a small task from me. No wonder you were trained by that trash Cheng Wu. I'd like to see who it is that wants to touch my living sacrificial fire." Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse, for free as soon as possible. Chapter 266. A youth dressed in dark blue martial arts attire was fighting on a protruding purplish-black rock. He was looking at the scarlet vortex that was rapidly absorbing the fire elements in the distance. Two jellyfish, one red and one blue, floated in midair with water curtains around their bodies, circling around the young man in dark blue. A young man with a watermelon hairstyle was commanding a huge skate with a dark blue body and strange light blue patterns on its body. This dark blue giant stingray with strange pale blue patterns was rapidly slaughtering a small group of Class 3 Abyss dimensional lifeforms, the lin-tailed demons. Among all the Class 3 demons, the lin-tailed demons were considered the demons with the highest body toughness. The lin-tailed demons' strongest attack method was to brandish their three long tails covered with scaly spikes to whip and stab. If the scaly-tailed demon's long tail that was covered in scaly armor spikes, even silver-grade spirit materials would be broken into pieces. If stabbed by the sharp tip of the long tail covered in scaly armor spikes, most silver-grade spirit materials would probably be directly penetrated. However, this small group of lin-tailed demons, which were equivalent to gold fays, were easily sliced into countless pieces by this giant stingray. The group of struggling lin-tailed demons' scaly spikes whipped the giant stingray's body. The scaly spikes, which carried a massive force of 500 kilograms, couldn't hurt this giant stingray at all. Even when it whipped the water curtains around the stingray, it couldn't cause any obvious ripples. This youth with a watermelon hairstyle was Fong Duo. The Dragon Gate Guild Club had been in this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift for over a month. During this period, the Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team and reserve team had a total of 9 members who had been honing the coordination of Fays on the battlefield. If a solo battle was to consider how a person could control a few Fays to carry out an effective battle, the distribution of Spirit Chi professional spiritual power and the coordination of Phase abilities and exclusive skills would determine the eruption of combat power and the direction of the battle. Therefore, there wasn't much difference between a team of spirit chi professionals' considerations and individual battles. It was still the coordination of phase abilities and exclusive skills. However, among such phase, the combination of abilities and exclusive skills was switched from individual to group. When a mature spirit chi professional squad was in battle, they would not summon all their phase. Instead, each of them would only summon 2 phase or even 1 main phase to cooperate. He would allocate the spirit chi in his body to his strongest phase, maximizing the efficiency of the spirit chi usage. He would then summon his other phase to deal with special situations. In many cases, the non-main phase would help the main phase block damage or carry out functional attacks. At that moment, Dragon Gate Club's original 9 members had been reduced to 4. One of the main members of Dragon Gate Guild Club led 4 reserve members back to the base of Dragon Gate Guild Club in the royal capital. He was preparing to carry out the final upgrade of his phase quality and grade before the start of the tournament season. Fang Duo lifted his head and said to Long Tao, "Boss, we're done wrapping things up here. There really isn't much we can do with these scaled tail demons." Upon hearing that, Long Tao did not speak. He only nodded his head and continued to observe the scarlet flame vortex that had suddenly appeared on the horizon. It was as though he was trying hard to think of something in his mind. As soon as Fang Duo recalled his Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Terror Ray into the spiritual spatial zone, he saw Zhao Xiaochun holding an orange. Zhao Xiaochun had already peeled the orange's skin and was eating happily with a large piece of orange flesh in her mouth. Fang Duo hurriedly leaned over and said, "Everyone who sees it gets a share. Zhao Xiaochun, give me half of the remaining half of your orange." Upon hearing that, Zhao Xiaochun quickly lowered her head and stuffed the remaining half of the orange into her mouth. Then she looked at Fang Duo proudly, her eyes filled with the meaning of, "I peeled the orange, so why should I give it to you?" Fang Duo immediately felt wronged and glanced at Chen Hongfeng, who was working hard to control the huge-tailed swamp lizard and harvesting these Class 3 scaled tail demons that were on their last breaths. Then Fang Duo climbed up the protruding rock that Long Tao was standing on and said to Long Tao with a grin, "Boss, your 2 Platinum/Fantasy Blue Dragon Jellyfish are really getting stronger." Hearing this, Long Tao could not help but rub his temples and said helplessly, "Fang Duo, if you have something to say, say it." Fang Duo replied immediately, "Boss, Zhao Xiaochun has been slacking off. These few waves of demons, Zhao Xiaochun didn't go up at all. She's just eating fruits." Zhao Xiaochun, who was swallowing the orange, almost choked to death when she heard Fang Duo's words. Zhao Xiaochun loved sour food, so the oranges she bought were also very sour. The orange juice flowed into Zhao Xiaochun's nose, causing her to choke on her tears. Long Tao looked at Fang Duo, who was seriously complaining, and Zhao Xiaochun, who was coughing non-stop and was obviously choking. He felt a buzzing pain in his temples. Fang Duo and Zhao Xiaochun had not stopped training for more than a month. Long Tao felt that even if he encountered a group of level 4 demons, they would not be as troublesome as Fang Duo and Zhao Xiaochun. At this time, Zhao Xiaochun secretly glanced at Chen Hongfeng and gave him a look. Seeing Zhao Xiaochun's meaningful glance, Chen Hongfeng immediately said, "Boss, Fang Duo angered big sister Xiaochun to tears just now." Upon hearing this, Long Tao held his forehead with his hand, indicating that he did not want to speak. Zhao Xiaochun threw an orange to Chen Hongfeng and gave him an approving look. Upon seeing this, Fang Duo felt even more wronged and jumped off the rock, clamoring to ask Zhao Xiaochun for an orange. At that moment, Long Tao's solemn voice came. "Duo, Xiaochun, Feng, a treasure should have appeared in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. This treasure is likely to be a strange flame that we have never heard of before. Let's go and take a look." When Zhao Xiaochun, Fang Duo, and Chen Hongfeng saw that Long Tao was serious, they immediately stopped fooling around. They rode on Fang Duo's Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Fear Ray and headed in the direction of the scarlet flame vortex on the horizon. Sitting on the back of the Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Fear Ray, Zhao Xiaochun felt the abnormally low temperature in the Abyss Dimensional Rift and immediately tightened her clothes. Then she took out a pig's trotter with a layer of shiny oil from her drumstick-shaped diamond face storage box and started to gnaw on it. As soon as Zhao Xiaochun took out this huge pig's trotter, Fang Duo couldn't help but smack his lips. Upon seeing this, Long Tao could not stand it anymore and said to Zhao Xiaochun, who was eating happily, "Xiaochun, give Fang Duo a pig's trotter too. Xiaochun, give Fang Duo a pig trotter too. You made him so hungry that his fury ray can't even fly properly." Upon hearing Long Tao's words, Zhao Xiaochun reluctantly threw a pig's trotter to Fang Duo and said, "Eat gently. I won this from a buffet previously. You won't be able to eat this pig's trotter in the future." Fang Duo was a little puzzled. "Why can't I eat it when I have money?" Zhao Xiaochun said rather regretfully. "That shop had an eating contest previously, so I went to support it and tried it casually. After a month, that shop closed for some reason." At that moment, Lin Yuan had arrived near the Scarlet Flame Vortex. He deliberately found a place where no one was around to land. After landing, he retracted his 4 wings, which turned into thousands of scattered black feathers that fell to the ground. The place where the feathers fell to the ground suddenly turned into a quicksand vortex, and these thousands of black feathers made of day and night spirit silver immediately melted into the quicksand vortex. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice suddenly rang in Lin Yuan's ears. Upon hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan's pupils shrank. Baiduan wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 267. The mother of Bloodbath's pleasant and strange voice had a trace of doubt and solemnity. "Lin Yuan, I sense a trace of a suzerain/myth breed aura." Lin Yuan subconsciously asked. "Is it a suzerain/myth breed fey or a class 6 demon with the strength of a suzerain? This aura doesn't have the smell of flames or sulfur, so it can't be the aura of a demon." Lin Yuan was nervous when he suddenly heard the mother of Bloodbath's words. However, after the mother of Bloodbath confirmed that it wasn't the aura of a class 6 demon, Lin Yuan's heart relaxed slightly. If the aura of a class 6 demon really appeared in this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift, it would really be a big problem. However, Lin Yuan still frowned slightly and pondered. The strongest abyss dimensional life form in the controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift was only a class 4 demon. A class 4 demon's strength was only equivalent to a platinum phase combat strength. Logically speaking, there really didn't seem to be anything in this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift that could attract the attention of a suzerain/myth breed fey. In the Radiance Federation, there weren't any suzerain/myth breed feys. Some wild feys would choose to report to the spirit guards after reaching the suzerain grade. In this way, these wild feys that had reached suzerain could be considered experts that were officially recognized by the Radiance Federation. These wild feys that reached suzerain and chose to serve the Radiance Federation spirit guards had excellent benefits. They almost didn't have to worry about future promotion resources. At the same time, they would also receive help from the Radiance Federation's Class 4 or even Class 5 Creation Masters. If such experts wanted to take the initiative to obtain resources, most of them would go to those dimensional rifts that suddenly opened in the outside world. They would go to seize the source-type items in those dimensional rifts that suddenly opened. This was the best way for suzerain experts to accumulate resources. Therefore, Lin Yuan was a little puzzled. "Mother of Bloodbath, can you suzerain/myth breed feys sense each other within a certain range?" The mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice rang in his ears. The aura of a suzerain/myth breed fey can only be sensed by other suzerain/myth breed feys. If one party intentionally retracts its aura, it will be hard to discover the other party's existence even if they are face to face. Unless it is a suzerain/myth breed fey that is naturally adept at detection. However, I'm adept at attacking, not detection. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately confirmed one thing in his heart. This suzerain/myth breed fey should not be like the mother of Bloodbath, who was a path protector of the younger generation undergoing training in this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift. Even some rich and powerful clans would arrange for path protectors during their growth. Most of these path protectors were king class or even peak powerhouses. Very few of the Dao protectors of the disciples of the great clans could reach the suzerain rank. Even if there was, it should be a suzerain human expert above king class and not a suzerain/myth breed fey. Moreover, the mother of Bloodbath could actually sense the aura of a suzerain/myth breed fey. This meant that the suzerain/myth breed fey didn't conceal its aura. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before asking. "Mother of Bloodbath, did you sense that suzerain/myth breed fey's aura before or after the Scarlet Vortex appeared?" The mother of Bloodbath's strange yet pleasant voice said with certainty. "Not long after the Scarlet Vortex appeared, I sensed the aura of a suzerain/myth breed fey. However, there is something wrong with the aura." The mother of Bloodbath paused and spoke again. "This suzerain/myth fey's aura is very weak, so weak that it doesn't seem like a true suzerain/myth fey. But this aura might be weak, but it is very pure." After remembering the mother of Bloodbath's words, he still could not figure out what was going on. However, Lin Yuan was extremely vigilant in his heart. If this suzerain/myth phase aura had only been exposed after the scarlet vortex appeared, it would not have been able to escape. This meant that this suzerain/myth phase was also attracted by the strange flame under the scarlet vortex. Lin Yuan felt the gold eye/fantasy eye elemental source sand under his feet, which had almost covered the ground under his feet. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. The source sand that he had contracted was different from his other phase. Over the past month, the source sand had created an unknown amount of yellow sand with its gold/fantasy breed strength. Every bit of yellow sand could increase the source sand's strength by a portion. Lin Yuan quickly injected the spiritual power in his body into the source sand under the purplish-black soil under his feet. Lin Yuan ordered the source sand to quickly create sand and fill the bottom of the red vortex, which was likely to be the World Fey Red Pagoda and the ground that had produced the world sacrificial fire from the Red Pagoda. With the injection of Lin Yuan's spiritual power, the gold/fantasy source sand, which had been slowly creating sand, finally revealed its extraordinary power. Every grain of sand under the soil was attached with ferromanganese's hard and sharp metal characteristics and quickly shattered the rocks under the soil. After the source sand accepted Lin Yuan's injection of spirit qi, a large amount of sand was produced and quickly spread in all directions with the flame vortex as the center. He raised his hand and used Morbius Spirit Lock on the Bronze X/Legend Spirit Gather Goldfish's spirit injection to recover the spiritual power he had just consumed. Now that Lin Yuan was prepared to seize this treasure that had triggered the world anomaly. In that case, he naturally had to maintain his best state and accept any possible dangers and challenges. As Lin Yuan walked to the entrance of the valley under the flame vortex, he found that there were already many spirit qi professionals at the entrance of the valley under the red vortex. However, these spirit qi professionals did not go forward and were trapped outside the valley under the scarlet vortex. Lin Yuan looked at the flowing flame-like fire elemental energy under the scarlet vortex and could not help but sigh. The flowing flame-like fire elemental energy almost covered the interior of the valley. Being under the flowing flame-like fire elemental energy in the valley was equivalent to being exposed to the attacks of a pinnacle silver fire-type Fey. Most of the spirit qi professionals who came to this controlled class 3-dimensional rift for training and adventure had gold phase. Only a few people had platinum phase. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 268. Those spirit qi professionals with platinum phase might be able to enter and could even bring 1 or 2 companions with pinnacle gold phase. However, these spirit qi professionals were not at the platinum standard and did not have companions with platinum phase, so they could only be stuck outside the valley. He didn't even have the right to enter the valley. Lin Yuan's arrival attracted the attention of many adventurers and young people who were here to watch the show. "Kid, don't go any further. Just watch from here. There are people selling snacks over there, but the price is a bit expensive." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan looked to the side and saw a little fatty holding a pile of supplies and hawking them. Beside him stood a few younger people who were about the same age as the little fatty. They were all clamoring to help the little fatty sell the large pile of goods in front of them. These shouts made the atmosphere of the scene a little noisy. Those who didn't know better would think that they were collectively waiting to watch a performance. Lin Yuan really didn't know whether he should say that the little fatty had a brain for business or that he was foolish enough to not be afraid of trouble. He walked to the entrance of the valley and was about to enter the barrier formed by the flame-shaped fire elements. At that moment, a middle-aged adventurer hurriedly pulled Lin Yuan and said, "Don't worry. Do you want to die?" Those fellows who thought that they were strong didn't manage to run more than a few meters before they were all burned to death by the flame-shaped fire elements. Although the fire elements in this valley are only equivalent to a silver phase attack, the inside is already equivalent to a gold phase attack. As soon as this adventurer finished speaking, another adventurer next to him spoke up. "Do you really think you're black with a mask on? Even if black is here, that strange plant and that silver/fantasy breed bird Fey won't be able to enter this fire elemental valley filled with flowing flames." Lin Yuan raised his brows. This elder brother is very knowledgeable. If he were to use red thorn and chimey, he wouldn't be able to enter the valley filled with flowing flames. However, he didn't plan on relying on red thorn and chimey to enter. If Lin Yuan wanted to enter the valley filled with flowing flames, he had 2 ways. The first method was to summon the silver fantasy breed Jasmine Lily. He had the Jasmine Lily cast heal on him, and then he filled his body with life energy and endured the pain. Even if one were to be injured by the flowing flames, the Jasmine Lily's rich life energy would immediately heal them. However, if that was the case, he would have to endure it back and forth between burning off a layer of skin and growing another layer of skin. Lin Yuan felt that this was simply too tough. Lin Yuan would not be so cruel to himself. However, Lin Yuan had a second method. That was, he could use the source sand to sink into the ground and reach the position below the flame vortex by walking underground. The source sand had already scouted the path for Lin Yuan. The flowing flame-shaped fire elements in the valley were almost at the standard of a gold phase attack. However, the temperature of the purplish-black soil in the valley was not high. Furthermore, the temperature near the fist-sized plant that contained a huge amount of spirit chi was no different from the temperature outside the valley. It might even be colder. Therefore, traveling underground was the best choice. When the two adventurers who had been talking to Lin Yuan turned around, they realized that Lin Yuan had disappeared. The two of them quickly looked at each other and swallowed their saliva. One of the adventurers said in surprise. "My goodness, that kid burned away too quickly." The other adventurer realized that the words he wanted to say had been said first, and he choked on his words. After a long time he said, "It is said that women are made of water. It's said that women are made of water. Is this guy wearing a mask made of oil?" At that moment, the two of them suddenly heard a scream from the side. A slightly plump middle-aged woman dressed in leather armor was covering her mouth as she cried out in alarm, "Guguda, Guguda." After screaming for a long time, she shouted, "That kid was just eaten by the soil. That kid was just eaten by the soil." At that moment, Lin Yuan was already 5 meters underground. However, he was not squeezed miserably in the yellow sand. Instead, he was in a metal cage that was sealed on all sides by chain swords. Lin Yuan stood in this metal cage made of ferromanganese and did not dare to move. Even if Lin Yuan was the source sand's contractor, the ferromanganese's metal characteristics did not recognize people. If he moved recklessly, Lin Yuan would have to experience the feeling of a potato scratching the skin of a potato. Soon, Lin Yuan was lifted out of the purplish-black soil by the source sand's huge hand. The moment he left the ground, the metal cage made of ferromanganese quickly melted into the gravel. At this critical moment, Lin Yuan suddenly sensed something. The source sand instantly produced thousands of feathers made of gold day and night spirit silver, and the feathers instantly formed 4 wings. When these 4 wings had just appeared, Lin Yuan injected spiritual power into them, and they turned from black to pure white. The 4 lustrous white wings folded and protected Lin Yuan in between them. At that moment, 3 violent energy blasted on Lin Yuan's 4 lustrous white wings. Even with the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand strength and the day and night spirit silver's extremely strong buffering and shock-absorbing metal characteristics, Lin Yuan still felt a significant impact. This impact made Lin Yuan feel that his internal organs were in pain. However, although this impact made Lin Yuan very painful, it did not cause him any substantial damage. If Lin Yuan had not been thinking about the fey-trapping metals fragments and had been paying attention, he would have been seriously injured. If he had not been thinking about the fey-trapping metals fragments, he would have been seriously injured even if he had defended himself. In this month, Lin Yuan had been used to the ruthless methods used to kill people and seize their treasures. However, he did not expect that someone would actually ambush adventurers who had just arrived in this valley. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard 3 rough voices coming from outside. "Big brother, this kid is not dead yet. His reaction is really fast. He's not dead yet. Can't you see that the white wings are not open? Big brother, what fey is this? It can even grow wings on a person's body. Why haven't I heard of it before?" Then Lin Yuan's lustrous white wings were immediately bombarded by the fey's abilities. The 3 voices were obviously from the same team of spirit chi professionals. Judging from the attacks just now, there were 2 pinnacle gold phase attacks and 1 platinum 2/elite phase attacks. Since it was an ambush, even if the 3 of them did not use 100% of their strength, they must have used at least 80% of their strength. Lin Yuan's ice-cold voice sounded under the 4 lustrous white wings. "Boil source sand." As soon as Lin Yuan's voice fell, the purplish-black soil in the valley collapsed in an instant, forming a quicksand with a radius of nearly 1 kilometer. At this moment, all the quicksand formed a force that pushed down layer after layer of sand. As the quicksand boiled, it was as if it wanted to drag everything nearly 100 meters underground. Lin Yuan heard 3 rough exclamations, so his 4 white wings spread out and turned black in an instant. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 269. The 4 black wings absorbed the little light in the valley, as though there were ink-colored ripples in the air that devoured the light. Before Lin Yuan had been attacked by the trio, he had been vigilant and on guard. Now these three people were caught off guard by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan shook his four black wings and stood on the palm that had been lifted out of the sea of sand. The middle finger had been blown off by the attack just now, and he controlled the source sand to attack. At that moment, one of the three spirit chi professionals who had been struggling and sneak attacking Lin Yuan suddenly appeared. The two pinnacle gold spirit chi professionals and their contracted phase seemed to have encountered some terrifying attack at the bottom of the quicksand. All the roars and shouts were instantly stuck in their abdomens, losing their vitality and sinking into the quicksand. Upon seeing this, the Platinum Fey professional quickly shouted, Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Let me live. I'll do whatever you want me to do in the future. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's eyes behind the mask were very cold and flashing with killing intent. You don't even have a willpower rune. What right do you have to be loyal? Lin Yuan's words made the spirit chi professional, who was struggling in the sea of sand and had a Platinum Fey, unable to say anything to beg for mercy. Without a willpower rune, one could not use a willpower rune to make an oath. Without a willpower rune to bind one's contract, one's words had no credibility. Lin Yuan's eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at the Platinum Spirit Chi professional and the sword-toothed archback wolf struggling in the quicksand. Lin Yuan would not be lenient to anyone who wanted to kill him. Even if this Spirit Chi professional with the Platinum Fey had a willpower rune and swore loyalty to Lin Yuan would not hesitate to kill him. This was because Lin Yuan would not spare anyone who had the intention to kill him. He would not turn these people who had the intention to kill him into his servants and keep them by his side. Due to the sand grains that the source sand had accumulated for more than a month, its strength was far from its usual level. The Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye source sand's usual strength was already comparable to a Platinum Fey. The source sand's ability to control the boundless sand grains had far exceeded the limits of a Platinum Fey. As long as it wasn't a flying-type Platinum Fey that fell into this boundless quicksand, it was impossible to escape. Only Diamond Land Fays could break free if they were trapped in this quicksand. The source sand's flows and wasn't just a phase attack method. Instead, an elemental source-type life form had accumulated a natural disaster through its own characteristics. The spirit chi professionals who had Platinum Fays struggling in the sea of sand no longer had much spiritual power to resist this downward flowing sand due to the rapid consumption of spirit chi during the struggle. This spirit chi professional with a Platinum Fey had accidentally swallowed a few mouthfuls of sand while struggling. The sand grains contained the characteristics of ferromanganese, causing the Platinum Spirit Chi professional's vocal cords to be completely crushed. Now this Platinum Spirit Chi professional did not even have the ability to speak. At that moment, the Platinum Spirit Chi professional heard a cold voice echo. How many people have you ambushed and killed? The boiling quicksand that Lin Yuan channeled his spiritual power was equivalent to Lin Yuan's eyes. Lin Yuan had already sensed that there were still many Spirit Chi professionals and Fays that had just died in this quicksand. These Spirit Chi professionals and Fays had all been killed in a sneak attack or in one blow. It was obvious that these three people had ambushed many adventurers that had come here before ambushing him. At that moment, the Spirit Chi professional with the Platinum Fey, who no longer had the strength to struggle, had blood-red eyes as he stared at Lin Yuan with resentment. Lin Yuan looked at the resentment in this Spirit Chi professional's eyes and gently moved his fingers. The Platinum Saber-Toothed Archback Wolf, which was struggling to lift the Spirit Chi professional in this sea of sand, suddenly only had time to let out a mournful cry before sinking into the quicksand without a sound. The Spirit Chi professional with the Platinum Saber-Toothed Archback Wolf was in pain, and beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. The real world was not Star Web, and the spiritual backlash after a Fey's death had a great impact on Spirit Chi professionals. Lin Yuan said indifferently, "Those who want to kill will be killed. I wanted to ask you why you ambushed other adventurers, but you swallowed gravel with ferromanganese characteristics, and your vocal cords are already broken, so I can't ask you anything." Then Lin Yuan said softly, "Source sand eat him." As the Spirit Chi professional with the Platinum Sword-Tooth Archback Wolf sank into the quicksand, Lin Yuan was the only one left in the cave directly below the red vortex in this valley. Lin Yuan let the source sand expand the area of the flow zone, turning the area 2 kilometers away from the cave entrance into the flow zone area. He then buried the entrance of the cave in the valley with sand. Now, he stepped on the boiling quicksand and walked to the fist-sized plant that had caused this red vortex to contain great energy. Lin Yuan realized that the fist-sized plant that had caused the red vortex was indeed a scarlet succulent plant that contained immense energy. The color of this scarlet succulent plant was the purest red. It was even purer than the scarlet color of the cinnabar. 7 to 8 thick, fang-like leaves grew together layer by layer, piecing together an elegant lotus-like scarlet succulent plant. Each of the thick, fung-like leaves was red and translucent, but they were not eye-catching. Although it was an extremely red color and should be as dazzling as the rainbow sun, this red color was exceptionally reserved. It was not as dazzling as the flame-like flame essence that it had absorbed. Lin Yuan felt that these fang-like leaves were a little like the teeth of a dragon species fei, but when these leaves were put together, there was an indescribable gentleness. A succulent plant that was not even the size of a fist actually seemed to have a kind of motherly radiance that could accommodate all living beings. Each dragon's fang-like leaf was scarlet in color, and only the root of the leaf would produce a kind of green color. The green color gathered together to form a cluster of green flames. This green flame was completely wrapped in this scarlet flame, and not even a hint of aura leaked out. This scarlet flame burned very fiercely, but when Lin Yuan walked close, he could not feel the temperature. The flame-like fire elements absorbed by the flame vortex were all fused into this scarlet flame. However, this scarlet flame did not grow. Only the green flame in the center of the scarlet flame was constantly flickering. As this green flame flickered, it seemed to become more and more sparkling at a speed visible to the naked eye, just like a burning jade. Lin Yuan was now almost certain that this scarlet succulent plant in front of him should be the red pagoda. The green flame wrapped in the scarlet flame should be the life-form sacrificial fire, which was ranked 7th among all fire-type spiritual ingredients in the world. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check and found that he was right. This scarlet succulent plant was the red pagoda. However, this scarlet succulent plant was not as simple as an ordinary red pagoda. Under True Data, this scarlet succulent plant's name was the Twin Red Pagoda. After a careful check, Lin Yuan found that this red pagoda really had more than one flower head. Looking at the roots, he found that the larger of the two main flower heads had almost withered for some reason. Only a very weak scarlet flame was still emitting from the center of the main flower. In the scarlet flame, there was a trace of a green flame that was thinner than strands of hair. If this secondary flower had not been protecting and nourishing the main flower's last fire seed, this main flower's fire seed would have long been extinguished. Lin Yuan immediately realized that something was wrong. As a creation master, Lin Yuan had a deep understanding of the growth of all things. For a heaven and earth fey like the red pagoda, the main flower would never wither in a natural environment. Instead, the secondary flower would still be alive. Lin Yuan first kept a distance from the red pagoda with his hand and then released pure spiritual power. When the red pagoda felt this pure spiritual power, its scarlet leaves suddenly became brighter. After a while, Lin Yuan touched the basically withered main flower with his hand and released pure spirit qi into it. All things had a spirit. As a heaven and earth fey, the red pagoda naturally had its own intelligence. As a plant fey, the red pagoda's intelligence was limited, but it could sense others' help. The growth of heaven and earth feys was a process of fighting against the heavens. With the help of this pure spirit qi, the twin red pagoda immediately showed goodwill to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan injected a large amount of pure spirit qi into the twin red pagoda. The twin red pagoda had already regarded Lin Yuan as one of its own. However, the more pure spirit qi was injected into the twin red pagoda's main flower, the more Lin Yuan felt that something was wrong. When Lin Yuan placed his palm on the twin red pagoda's heaven and earth fey, he found that the life-form sacrificial fire had long matured. Logically speaking, after the red pagoda finished nurturing the heaven and earth sacrificial fire, it should naturally dissipate. This was because the red pagoda was a kind of fey that used its entire life to nurture one fire. Now that the twin red pagoda had absorbed such a large amount of fire elements, it had almost emptied the controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rifts fire elements. In that case, where did the life-form sacrificial fire that the twin red pagoda had absorbed go? Lin Yuan did not command the source sand to dig the twin red pagoda's roots. Instead, he dug the soil under the twin red pagoda's main flower. Since the twin red pagoda had already regarded Lin Yuan as one of its own, it did not make any defensive measures. After digging for a while, Lin Yuan found that the twin red pagoda's main flower's roots were completely rooted in an exquisite golden disc. Read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 270. He could feel that the golden disc was frantically absorbing the fire elemental energy from the twin red pagoda's main flower through its roots. It was almost the entire class 3 abyss dimensional rift's fire elemental energy. After sensing it, he found that the fire elemental energy that the twin red pagoda absorbed was not directly transmitted into this golden disc. Instead, the fire elemental energy was stored in the twin red pagoda's body. However, the enormous amount of spiritual energy contained within these fire elements was completely absorbed by the golden disc without leaving a single drop behind. The enormous amount of spirit chi absorbed by the golden disc was transformed from the fire elemental energy absorbed by the life-form sacrificial fire. The massive spirit chi in the life-form sacrificial fire was absorbed by the golden disc. As the twin red pagoda flower that nurtured the life-form sacrificial fire, it naturally had to desperately absorb the fire element to replenish the massive spirit chi consumed by the life-form sacrificial fire. This was because the auxiliary flower of the twin red pagoda was, to a certain extent, the mother of the life-form sacrificial fire. This was also the reason why the twin red pagoda flower had clearly nurtured the life-form sacrificial fire and completed its mission, but it still did not wither. At this moment, a red color that was more beautiful than the twin red pagoda leaf shone in the cave. As the red crystal-like luster flashed, it condensed into a woman with red hair, red eyes, and scarlet red leather armor. As soon as Lin Yuan saw this red-haired, red-eyed woman wearing scarlet leather armor, he said with a smile, "You're right. Mother of Bloodbath, why did you suddenly transform into a human form?" He had watched the Mother of Bloodbath undergo the celestial stairway baptism from Suzerain/Myth I to Suzerain/Myth II. It could even be said that if Lin Yuan had not activated the Spirit Gather Goldfish's Spirit Chi imprint and activated Morbius Pure Land of Bliss to help the Mother of Bloodbath heal its damaged roots, the Spirit Gather Goldfish would not have survived. In that case, the Mother of Bloodbath might have perished during the world cleansing when it advanced from Suzerain/Myth I to Suzerain/Myth II. However, the Mother of Bloodbath had been at Suzerain/Myth II for such a long time. The Mother of Bloodbath had remained in its Fey form, apart from transforming into a human form when it accepted the world grace after completing the world cleansing. This was the second time he had seen the Mother of Bloodbath transform into a human form. At that moment, the Mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice was full of seriousness. "Lin Yuan, do you recognize the metal and metal disc used in this metal disc?" Lin Yuan nodded at first and then shook his head. He was no stranger to this golden metal as it was the spirit-trapping metal. However, spirit-trapping gold was generally used to create Fey storage boxes. It was the Fey storage box with the grade. The more it true and the metal that the and it and Lin Yuan really couldn't figure out what this golden disc, which looked like it was mostly made of spirit-trapping metal and the other metals inlaid in the various engraved symbols on the disc, was made of spiritual materials. And 1 gold, 2 fire and the Mother of Bloodbath looked up at the scarlet flame vortex in the sky and said in a cold voice, "I didn't expect the Dark Federation's spatial product to appear in the Radiance Federation's territory. Furthermore, it's inside the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift near the royal capital." When Lin Yuan heard the Mother of Bloodbath's words, he immediately realized the seriousness of the matter. The Mother of Bloodbath's crimson eyes suddenly seemed to burn, and its body flashed with a crystal red blood luster. A 2-centimeter-long spider that looked like it was carved out of red crystals appeared in the Mother of Bloodbath's hand. The Mother of Bloodbath placed the spider in Lin Yuan's hand and said, "I'm going to take a look at the hub of this Class 3-dimensional rift that connects to the Abyss world. I'm going to take a look at the hub that connects the Class 3-dimensional rift to the Abyss realm. Since someone is scheming in the dark, then the person who is scheming in the dark will not be able to do so. Now that the flame vortex has appeared and exposed the matter, the person who is scheming will not be able to sit still." Lin Yuan nodded and said, "Mother of Bloodbath, go ahead. Go ahead, Mother of Bloodbath. I'll wait for you outside the valley after collecting the life-form sacrificial fire." The Mother of Bloodbath looked at Lin Yuan, and a trace of warmth flashed in its originally cold crimson eyes. "Inject spiritual power into this red spider when you encounter danger." After saying that, the Mother of Bloodbath's figure suddenly disappeared from the cave like a broken red crystal mirror. Lin Yuan looked at the golden disc in his hand. It was his first time seeing it. However, he knew quite a lot about the Fey storage box. When Lin Yuan had first become the Moon Empress disciple, he had asked about the Fey storage box during his first question and answer session with the Moon Empress. After the Moon Empress explanation, Lin Yuan learned that Ostrich Logistics was not a giant that monopolized the logistics industry in the Radiance Federation. Ostrich Logistics was actually a special organization that the Radiance Federation's officials secretly supported. Ostrich Logistics was responsible for manufacturing all the spatial equipment used to store phase and spiritual materials in the Radiance Federation. All the spatial equipment used to store phase and spiritual materials in the Radiance Federation had a unified design specification, which was the phase storage box. In the Radiance Federation, only the phase storage boxes from normal to bronze to diamond were produced by Ostrich Logistics. The spirit trapping gold was not something that was hard to come by. However, under the jurisdiction of the Radiance Federation, other logistics industries were not allowed to produce spatial equipment except for Ostrich Logistics. If one wanted to use spatial equipment, they could only go to Ostrich Logistics to order the phase storage box they needed. The phase storage gold and some special techniques to create spatial items could have a variety of shapes and functions. From the mother of bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan knew that this golden metal disc in front of him was a spatial equipment from the Dark Federation. The Radiance Federation's territory was simply too big, and Lin Yuan did not dare to say that he knew many things in the Radiance Federation. Therefore, Lin Yuan had hardly asked the Moon Empress about the world outside the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan only knew about the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation, as only the Freedom Federation and the Azure Federation could compete with the Radiance Federation in this world. The structure of this huge world was the Radiance Federation, the Freedom Federation, and the Azure Federation. Hundreds of small federations formed a single entity and formed this huge world map. Only those factions with world-class strategic resources, the Floating Island Whale, were qualified to stir up trouble in this huge world. This was indeed Lin Yuan's first time hearing about the Dark Federation. Lin Yuan tried to inject his spiritual power into the golden metal disc, and he suddenly realized that there was quite a lot of space inside. Although this space was not as big as the diamond phase storage box, it was comparable to the platinum phase storage box. When Lin Yuan looked at the golden metal disc, he saw that there was only a small tree that was about half a meter tall and looked very elegant and strange. Baiduan read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 271. In this golden metal disc, there was nothing else except this half-meter-tall, elegant and strange small tree. The leaves on this small tree were a pure gold color. This gold was not as tacky as the color of metal. It was like the color emitted by the most dazzling sun in the afternoon. The trunk and branches of this elegant and strange small tree were a very simple brown. However, there were strange patterns on the brown tree trunk, and Lin Yuan felt that these patterns were very familiar. Lin Yuan immediately remembered the phoenix feather that Hu Quan had carved on the parasol wood shelf in his spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan felt that the patterns on this elegant and strange small tree's trunk and branches were somewhat similar to the phoenix feather that Hu Quan had carved on the parasol wood. However, the patterns on the parasol wood in his spirit lock spatial zone had been artificially carved, while those on this elegant and strange small tree's trunk and branches had grown naturally. The golden leaves on the branches of this small tree were in the shape of 5 claws. In Lin Yuan's opinion, they were a bit like the claws of avian phase, but they were not as sharp as the claws of avian phase. This half-meter-tall elegant and strange small tree grew toward the south. Its branches and leaves were wrapped together like a golden bird's nest. The more Lin Yuan looked at it, the more he felt that this half-meter-tall small tree's branches and leaves were growing in the shape of a bird's nest. The leaves that surrounded the bird's nest seemed to have a layer of fine fluff, which emitted a soft halo and had a kind of holy beauty. The phoenix feather-like patterns on the trunk were absorbing the huge spirit chi from the roots of the twin red pagoda's main flower. They flowed with a dazzling golden halo and looked magical and extraordinary. Lin Yuan did not know what kind of fey this elegant and strange small tree was and what use it had. However, as long as he summoned it and used Morbius True Data to take a look, he would know. However, Lin Yuan did not want to summon this elegant and strange small tree that looked like a bird's nest from the golden disc. If he rashly summoned this elegant and strange small tree, he would lose the spiritual power it was absorbing from the roots of the twin red pagoda's main flower. If all of the flame energy in the flame vortex was poured into it, it was very likely that unpredictable changes would occur. The auxiliary flower of the twin red pagoda had already nurtured the life-form sacrificial fire. As long as the little golden tree's absorption of spirit energy from the roots of the main flower of the twin red pagoda was cut off, the auxiliary flower of the twin red pagoda would probably wither in an instant after sensing the life-form sacrificial fire that had long matured. If the auxiliary flower withered, the original twin red pagoda would only be left with an almost withered main flower and a mature life-form sacrificial fire. The life-form sacrificial fire was ranked 7th among all fire attribute spiritual materials in the world mainly because of its original characteristics. If a large amount of fire element was poured into the red vortex, the life-form sacrificial fire's essence, which contained vitality, might be changed by the large amount of fire element and transform into a new type of flame. However, no matter how powerful the transformed flame was, it was no longer the life-form sacrificial fire. Just like the elemental shellfish, although it had become stronger after evolving to bronze grade, it had lost its original function. Therefore, Lin Yuan could only take a risk and see if he could save the twin red pagoda's main flower and let it absorb the huge fire element energy in the red vortex. Lin Yuan now had some doubts that the twin red pagoda was not a twin at first. It was because the red pagoda, which had been used to nurture the strange little golden tree in this golden disc, had used all its strength to grow a side sprout and find a way out for the life-form sacrificial fire that it had used all its strength to nurture. It was precisely because of this evolution in the crisis that the normal red pagoda had mutated into the twin red pagoda. The main flower of the mutated twin red pagoda had yet to nurture a mature life-form sacrificial fire. Therefore, only the auxiliary flower had to dissipate. What Lin Yuan had to do was let the main flower absorb the fire element energy in the red flame. This could ensure that the life-form sacrificial fire nurtured by the auxiliary flower would not mutate under this fire element. It could even ensure that the twin red pagoda's main flower would bloom again and nurture a new life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan called out to Morbius in his heart. "Morbius, what are the chances of using the pure land of bliss to heal the twin red pagoda's main flower?" Morbius' voice sounded in Lin Yuan's spiritual energy. "Lin Yuan, as long as you're willing to use a spirit chi crystal, the large amount of pure spirit chi contained in the spirit chi crystal can directly revive the twin red pagoda's main flower." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan took out a spirit chi crystal from his spirit lock spatial zone without hesitation. If the twin red pagoda's main flower revived and could nurture another life-form sacrificial fire, Lin Yuan would be willing to use 10 spirit chi crystals, let alone 1 spirit chi crystal. Through Morbius spirit chi condensation in the spirit lock spatial zone, it only took about 7 days to condense a spirit chi crystal. This was only the effect of Morbius skills in the bronze/fantasy breed state. If Morbius advanced to a silver/fantasy breed, the effect of its spirit chi condensation would become stronger. The condensed spirit chi crystal would contain higher spirit chi content. It had been more than a month since Lin Yuan had finished enhancing the source-type source sand from Bronze X/Fantasy I to Gold I/Fantasy I. In the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, there were 6 more Spirit Chi crystals in the small limestone bowl. Lin Yuan naturally would not let go of such a good opportunity to use a Spirit Chi crystal that could be condensed in 7 days to exchange for a red pagoda. As long as he had a red pagoda and nurtured it, it would be equivalent to having another life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan took out the Spirit Chi crystal and placed it on the twin red pagoda's main flower. Then he used force with his fingers to crush the crystal. The moment Lin Yuan crushed the Spirit Chi crystal, Lin Yuan immediately severed the connection between the golden disc and the twin red pagoda's main flower. The moment the connection between the twin red pagoda's main flower and the golden disc was severed, the twin red pagoda's auxiliary flower withered instantly. The twin red pagoda's auxiliary flower withered instantly, and a burning emerald green flame appeared where the twin red pagoda's auxiliary flower had been. He stretched out his hand and grasped the life-form sacrificial fire, which was like a burning emerald. The life-form sacrificial fire in front of him felt like warm water that contained a huge amount of vitality. It was not hot at all, and it was exceptionally warm when held in his palm. Although the life-form sacrificial fire was a strange flame, it did not have the burning characteristics of a flame. Instead, it contained a strong vitality. The vitality contained in the life-form sacrificial fire made Lin Yuan feel terrified. The life-form sacrificial fire was indeed worthy of being able to replace a plant-phase tree heart and give them a new life. As he looked at the burning emerald green life-form sacrificial fire, Lin Yuan suddenly entered a wonderful state of epiphany. He was no stranger to this wonderful state of epiphany. Baidu, read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 272. Lin Yuan had personally experienced the Mother of Bloodbath's advancement from Myth I to Myth II. After the Mother of Bloodbath obtained new life after destruction, Lin Yuan vaguely had a feeling of epiphany. However, Lin Yuan could vaguely feel this feeling of epiphany, but he could not touch it. On Leaning Moon Mountain, Lin Yuan had seen the Diamond X/Legend Silver Stamen Gold Luster Kasha at the Radiant Moon Palace's entrance comprehend the Willpower Rune and promote to Suzerain. In order to accumulate energy, the flowers and green leaves on the tree had withered, just waiting for the next bloom. Such a scene gave Lin Yuan another layer of understanding of the indistinct feeling that he could not touch before. He now saw the twin red pagoda's auxiliary flower using its entire life to nurture a fire. Although the auxiliary flower had withered, it had obtained new life through the life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan only felt that a willpower rune containing the will to nurture new life and destruction had suddenly appeared in his spiritual spatial zone. There were only 2 willpower runes left in Lin Yuan's spiritual spatial zone. One was the willpower rune that Lin Yuan had comprehended during the extreme slaughter in the dimensional rift outside Redbud City Xia region. The other was the willpower rune that Lin Yuan had comprehended during the new life after destruction. Although this willpower rune contained endless vitality, it was different from the willpower rune that Lin Yuan had obtained from watching the revival of the Green Mountains vegetation. However, it was different from the willpower rune that he had obtained from watching the revival of the Green Mountains vegetation. This kind of destruction referred to the willpower rune that Lin Yuan had obtained after watching the revival of the Green Mountains vegetation. This kind of destruction referred to the stimulation of one's potential after being riddled with scars, using the state of destruction to welcome a new life. The willpower rune obtained from the revival of the Green Mountains vegetation was suitable for healing type phase. However, this willpower rune that Lin Yuan had comprehended was suitable for combat type phase. It had a feeling of tidying up the old mountains and rivers and regrouping to fight again. Somehow, Lin Yuan felt that this willpower rune that he had obtained from destruction was more suitable for Red Thorn than the willpower rune that he had obtained during the extreme slaughter. Lin Yuan's epiphany was completed in an instant. He had now comprehended 6 willpower runes. He had given one to the Jasmine Lily for it to become a fantasy breed, and one to Chimey for it to become a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan had used up the other 2 when he was contracting the source sand. The remaining 2 willpower runes were not suitable for the Spirit Gather Goldfish, Blue Flash Purple Butterfly, or Genius, regardless of whether it was the willpower rune that had been comprehended during the extreme massacre or the willpower rune that had just been comprehended during the destruction. However, these 2 willpower runes were suitable for Red Thorn. It was just that Lin Yuan would have to carefully consider which willpower rune to use when Red Thorn became a fantasy breed. Just as he crushed the spirit chi crystal that he had just taken out and placed on the twin red pagoda's main flower's head. The main flower of the twin red pagoda greedily absorbed the extremely pure spirit chi that gushed out of the broken spirit chi crystal. The scarlet flame on the head of the main flower and the wisp of green in the scarlet flame, which was thinner than a strand of hair, slowly grew stronger under the infusion of the pure spiritual energy. At this moment, the red vortex in the sky was filled with flowing flames of fire elemental energy. He let the twin red pagoda's remaining main flower receive the fire elemental energy in the flame vortex. He watched as the twin red pagoda's main flower grew little by little under the nourishment of such a huge amount of fire elemental energy. In the end, a few red buds even faintly emerged on the main flower. In the twin red pagoda's main flower's weak red flame, that wisp of green was constantly jumping like a dying old man suddenly giving birth to the vitality of a young man. It would still take a long time for the twin red pagoda's main flower to completely absorb the fire elemental energy in the red vortex. At that moment, Lin Yuan calmed down and checked the golden disc-shaped spatial equipment. After checking it, he was rather delighted by the golden disc-shaped spatial equipment. This golden metal disc-shaped spatial equipment would save him a lot of effort in the future. Lin Yuan had to deal with the energy ores in the spirit pool in the spirit lock spatial zone regularly to replenish the spirit lock spatial zone. This was because only when spiritual energy was injected into the Radiance Federation's standard phase storage box could the internal and external space be connected. Therefore, every time Lin Yuan wanted to replenish the energy ores in the spirit lock spatial zone, he had to put in a lot of effort. However, this golden disc-shaped spatial equipment was different from the Radiance Federation's phase storage box. This golden disc-shaped spatial equipment had always maintained a state of connection between the outside and the inside. Lin Yuan only needed to fill this golden disc-shaped spatial equipment with energy ores and place it at the bottom of the spirit pool. Then, before the energy ores in this golden disc-shaped spatial equipment were consumed, Lin Yuan did not need to deal with them like before. This could save Lin Yuan the effort of dealing with the energy ores on a daily basis. The energy ores in the golden disc-shaped spatial equipment were enough to be used for a long time in the spirit lock spatial zone. After all, the size of this golden disc-shaped spatial equipment was comparable to a platinum phase storage box. With a thought, Lin Yuan summoned the strange golden small tree from the golden disc-shaped spatial equipment. He used Morbius True Data to check this strange golden small tree, but it gave him a big shock. After the shock, Lin Yuan's face revealed a hint of joy that could not be hidden. It had always been very difficult for Lin Yuan to enhance a fantasy breed phase quality. If Lin Yuan wanted to enhance a fantasy breed phase quality into a fantasy breed phase quality, it would be extremely slow. If Lin Yuan wanted to enhance his fantasy breed phase quality into a fantasy breed phase quality, it would be like an old bull pulling a train. When his first jasmine lily had evolved into a fantasy breed, Lin Yuan had experimented and wanted to enhance the jasmine lily's quality from fantasy I to fantasy II. At that time, Lin Yuan had needed close to a month to enhance the jasmine lily's quality from silver I to fantasy I. However, Lin Yuan had only tried for 5 days before he decided to give up on enhancing the jasmine lily's quality from fantasy I to fantasy II. As Lin Yuan had been injecting a large amount of pure spirit qi into the jasmine lily's body in the spirit lock spatial zone over the past 5 days, he had realized that it did not help much in enhancing the jasmine lily's quality from fantasy I to fantasy II. It could even be said that during these 5 days, Lin Yuan had not felt any improvement in the jasmine lily's quality from fantasy I to fantasy II. Lin Yuan had asked his master, the Moon Empress, and found out that after a Fae became a fantasy breed, the improvement in quality from fantasy I to fantasy V had little to do with the Fae's potential. As long as a fantasy breed Fae reached diamond in fantasy V, it would have a chance to evolve into a myth breed Fae. Therefore, Lin Yuan was at ease to enhance his Faes, which were already at bronze/fantasy breed normally. It was no longer the same as before when he was promoting a Fae to a fantasy breed. He was afraid that it would affect the Fae's potential after becoming a fantasy breed, so he would be stuck at bronze X/legend. He would read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 273. It could be said that the biggest problem that Lin Yuan had faced before was to raise the quality of his fantasy breed phase from fantasy I to fantasy V. Lin Yuan had asked Morbius about the spirit chi crystals condensed by Morbius spirit chi condensation in the spirit lock spatial zone. If he wanted to increase the quality of the fantasy breed phase from fantasy I to fantasy II, he would need at least 100 of them. It would take Morbius at least 2 years to condense these hundreds of spirit chi crystals. Such a period of time was truly too long for Lin Yuan. Furthermore, this was only to upgrade the fantasy breed phase from fantasy I to fantasy II. Therefore, even if Lin Yuan had extremely powerful creation master abilities and could do things that other creation masters could not do, he still needed to upgrade the fantasy breed phase. From fantasy I to fantasy V, he wanted to upgrade his fantasy breed phase from fantasy I to fantasy V. They could only be like other spirit chi professionals and search for natural treasures that could help improve their fantasy breed phase quality. These natural treasures that could improve the quality of fantasy breed phase had a general name. They were Heaven and Earth phase. Heaven and Earth phase were different from ordinary phase. Ordinary phase could be contracted by spirit chi professionals. They had grade, quality, skills and exclusive skills. However, these Heaven and Earth phase were just like the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia that could increase spiritual energy and the sacrificial fire that could nurture the life-form sacrificial fire. Such Heaven and Earth phase could not be contracted by spirit chi professionals. Such Heaven and Earth phase might have grade and quality, but they did not have skills or exclusive skills. Instead of calling a Heaven and Earth spirit object a spirit object that could grow, it would be more accurate to call it a spirit material that could grow. Every Heaven and Earth Fae had its own unique effects. For example, the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia that Lin Yuan had previously obtained could bear fruits that could increase spiritual energy, while the sacrificial fire could nurture the life-form sacrificial fire. The strange and elegant small tree that Lin Yuan had just taken out from the golden disc was such a Heaven and Earth Fae. The Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia in Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone was a relatively common Heaven and Earth Fae. The Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia in Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone was already gold 8/flawless. When the gold 8/flawless Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia was upgraded to platinum, it would ripen and bear fruits that could restore mental strength. Once a spirit item like the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia bore a fruit that could restore one's spiritual energy, its grade would no longer increase. When the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia reached the platinum level, it was equivalent to entering the mature stage. After that, all the accumulated energy would be contributed to the fruit that would form. Of course, once the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia reached maturity, its quality could still be improved. A Heaven and Earth phase quality could be upgraded to legend at most. The higher the quality of the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia, the better the effect of the spirit-restoring fruit would be. Based on true data, the twin red pagoda in front of him had already reached platinum/epic. As for the fire sacrifice, it would only reach its mature stage when it reached the platinum grade. Only the twin red pagoda that had reached maturity could nurture the life-form sacrificial fire. However, the energy contained in the twin red pagoda's main flower had been absorbed by the strange and elegant little tree. Therefore, the twin red pagoda's main flower had entered a dormant state, although its quality and grade remained unchanged. However, it had also injured its origin. If it wanted to recover its origin and condense the life-form sacrificial fire, it would need to be carefully nurtured. Fortunately, Lin Yuan's spirit qi crystal had allowed the twin red pagoda's main flower to absorb a large amount of pure spirit qi and had already awakened from its slumber. In addition, there was a large amount of pure fire attribute energy in this flame vortex. After absorbing this large amount of fire attribute energy, the twin red pagoda's main flower should be able to recover part of its originally damaged origin. Then, it would bloom a red dragon-toothed flower on the withered main flower to nurture the life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan had never heard of this strange and elegant little golden forest before. However, with true data, this strange and elegant little golden tree's detailed information solved a huge problem that Lin Yuan had been facing before. This strange and elegant little golden tree-shaped heaven and earth fei was called the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. True data showed that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's grade had already reached gold I/legend. Lin Yuan did not expect to see a heaven and earth fei that had reached legend before it had matured. The improvement of a heaven and earth fei's grade was not as simple as the improvement of an ordinary fei's grade. The improvement of a heaven and earth fei's grade would often consume several times more resources than ordinary feis. This phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's grade had already reached the limit of a heaven and earth fei's grade. However, it was currently only gold and had not reached platinum, and it would still take a long time before it matured. With the information obtained from Morbius True Data, Lin Yuan knew that this phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's survival and evolution not only needed to absorb a large amount of pure spirit qi, but it also had to devour strange flames regularly. As long as there was a large amount of pure spirit qi and strange flames, it could slowly improve the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's grade. For a heaven and earth fei like the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, it was impossible for it to reach legend in its wild state before it matured. If a heaven and earth fei wanted to reach the legend grade, it would have to reach the platinum grade and reach a mature state. After a long period of accumulation, it would be able to reach the legend grade. In other words, this heaven and earth fei had an owner before this phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. It was unknown how much resources the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's previous owner had consumed to allow the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree to reach legend at gold. The life-form sacrificial flame that the heaven and earth fei had nurtured was probably prepared for the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's previous owner. The vitality energy contained in the life-form sacrificial flame could even be used as a plant's tree core to give it a second life. It was imaginable how precious the life-form sacrificial flame was to plants. The phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's owner was clearly planning to use the heaven and earth fei to nurture the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. However, in Lin Yuan's opinion, it was simply too wasteful to use the life-form sacrificial flame to nurture the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. The original owner of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was clearly the owner of this clear disc-shaped spatial equipment. No matter what evil ideas this person had in this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree had changed its name. Now that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree had changed its surname to Lin, it belonged to Lin Yuan. Read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw bookstore for free. Chapter 274. A heaven and earth fei like the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree would neither produce fruits that increase spiritual energy like the cinnabar osmanthus haworthia, nor produce the life-form sacrificial fire like the red pagoda. The heaven and earth fei, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, could not produce anything, but it could purify the bloodline of avian feis and improve their quality. As long as the bird feis rested in the nest made of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branches, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree would slowly dedicate the energy in its body to the bird feis that rested in the nest made of its branches and leaves. The energy in the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's body was extremely effective in stimulating the bloodline of bird feis. After checking the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's data, Lin Yuan stored it and the golden disc into his spirit lock spatial zone. If Lin Yuan had previously felt that his greatest gain was the life-form sacrificial fire, then he now felt that no matter how many life-form sacrificial fires he had, they could not compare to this immature phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Although Lin Yuan's contracted Chimey had long evolved into a twilight starbird, its foundation had evolved from a sound bird. After Chimey evolved into a twilight starbird, Lin Yuan's pure spirit qi would constantly be injected into it, and its grade would continue to rise. However, if Chimey's bloodline wanted to evolve again, it could only wait for an opportunity. For Fays, their bloodline would undergo a qualitative change when they reached bronze. After metamorphosing into a fantasy breed, their bloodline would undergo another qualitative change. Chimey had already gone through the 2 stages of bronze and fantasy breed. Although Chimey's bloodline might also evolve when it increased its grade in the future, the natural bloodline evolution during such a promotion was very slim. For a sound bird like Chimey, which was not even a Fey in the beginning, the natural bloodline evolution during such a promotion was very slim. Lin Yuan had always felt that Chimey's evolution path was a little toward the legendary phoenix's path. However, it was not quite the same because Chimey had never given up on its sound type as a sound bird. With this heaven and earth Fey, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, Chimey could once again unearth its hidden bloodline as a sound bird. When a fantasy breed Fey reached Fantasy 3, there would inevitably be a chance for its bloodline to metamorphose. If Chimey's quality could be upgraded from Fantasy I to Fantasy 3, coupled with the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's purification of its bloodline, it would be able to upgrade its bloodline to Fantasy 3. The moment Chimey's quality reached Fantasy 3 would be the moment Chimey would complete a qualitative leap. This qualitative leap was even greater than when Chimey became a fantasy breed. At the same time, with the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, he no longer had to worry about Chimey's quality improving. As long as Chimey rested in the nest built by the branches and leaves of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, he would constantly feed it with pure spirit qi and strange flames. As a fantasy breed Fey, the improvement of Chimey's quality was no longer a problem for him. As long as there was enough time, Chimey would naturally raise its quality from Fantasy I to Fantasy 3 or even Fantasy V. At this moment, the red vortex in the sky had almost been completely absorbed by the twin red pagoda's main flower. The red bud on the main flower of the twin red pagoda had become abnormally plump. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the growth of the twin red pagoda's main flower's petals was almost the same as the petals on the auxiliary flower's petals. The green flame that was originally thinner than a strand of hair in the red flame surrounded by leaves at the top of the twin red pagoda's main flower had now become a vibrant flame. However, even though the green flames were full of spirit, they weren't strong. The red vortex in the sky had completely disappeared. Lin Yuan could feel that his source sand had expanded out of the valley. Many adventurers had set foot in the 2-kilometer radius of the quicksand and were trying their best to trek over. At that moment, Lin Yuan was about to put the twin red pagoda, which had almost recovered, back into the diamond face storage box. The sand at the cave entrance, which Lin Yuan had added ferromanganese metal characteristics, was suddenly blown away by something. A tall and slender young man with bronze skin, peach blossom eyes, and a crew cut flashed in, whistling as he spoke. "Oh, the things here have actually been taken away. What did you put into the face storage box just now? Give me the things here and I'll let you go." Lin Yuan raised his brows. "Are you going to rob me?" This youth with a pair of peach blossom eyes and a crew cut originally had a cold expression, but he was stunned by Lin Yuan's words. "The treasures in the world belong to the capable. You picked up the spoils of war in this valley first, so I can only take them from you if I want them." Lin Yuan's voice was still very calm, but he was ready to fight. "So you still want to rob me of my spoils of war?" When the young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut heard Lin Yuan's next words, he immediately became a little unwilling. Spoils of war can only be guarded with strength. This Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift isn't like the outside. If you're not careful, you'll fall. After saying that, the young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut circulated his spiritual power. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw a 50-meter-long giant crocodile covered in flashing lightning appear in this small cave. This giant crocodile covered in flashing lightning was covered in thick, pure white armor, but it didn't look clumsy at all. Instead, it looked very nimble. The giant crocodile's eyes had a thunderous bluish-purple color, and it had an oppressive feeling like a prehistoric giant beast. All of a sudden, the giant crocodile's tail swung and lashed on the cave wall. After being roasted by the flowing flames in the huge flame whirlpool, the originally narrow cave had long been dehydrated and had started to crack. The 15-meter-long pure white crocodile's tail, which was covered in lightning, lashed out at the cave wall, which had long since lost its moisture, causing the cave to collapse. The collapsed walls of the cave turned into fine dust and sand as they collapsed onto the ground that the source sand had modified, filling the sky with dust. When the dust was blown by the abyss dimensional rift's sulfuric smell, it was a little choking. When Lin Yuan saw the young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut, he didn't recognize who he was. However, when this young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut summoned this giant crocodile, Lin Yuan immediately knew this young man's identity. When Lin Yuan had checked the strength of the Radiance 100 sequence members on Star Web, he had focused on this young man's information. Lin Yuan had focused on this young man's information because he was at the top of the Radiance 100 sequence. It was also because this young man's talent was simply too special. Thunder element Fays were mostly good at attacking, but this young man's Fey affinity was for defense-type Thunder element Fays. Defense-type Thunder element Fays were considered a very unorthodox and minority type of Fey. Defense-type Thunder element Fays were very rare. A very ordinary defense-type Thunder element Bronze Fey was already comparable in price to a better type of power offense-type Thunder element Gold Fey. At the same time, most of the defense-type Thunder element Fey's abilities and exclusive skills were very unorthodox. However, this young man used a defense-type Thunder element Fey and walked the path of traditional defense-type Spirit Chi professionals. He was the leader of the Radiance Federation's younger generation defense-type Spirit Chi professionals. This young man with peach blossom eyes and a crew cut was the Radiance 100 sequence's number 6, Shi Su, who was known as the Berserk Thunder Feast. Of course, as the Radiance 100 sequence's number 6 on Star Web, apart from the title Berserk Thunder Feast, Shi Su also had the title Working Emperor. However, Lin Yuan didn't know the meaning of this title. Baiduan read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 275. At that moment, the temperature in the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was slowly rising. When the massive scarlet flame vortex vanished, the sealed Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift had already returned to normal. Large amounts of fire elements were pouring in from the controlled Class 3-dimensional rift that was connected to the Abyss World's hub. It immediately returned the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift to its original temperature of close to 50 degrees Celsius. The temperature suddenly rose from less than 20 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. It was like a person who had just come out of ice water and was locked in a sauna. The adventurers in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift were immediately unable to breathe for a long time. Outside the completely collapsed cave, the flying dust was gradually dispersed by the wind. Lin Yuan used true data to check on the 15-meter-long pure white giant crocodile covered in lightning. Fey name: Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, Fey species: Muscle Crocodile / Armored Crocodile, Fey grade: Platinum 4 out of 10, Fey type: Thunder, Fey quality: Fantasy Eye abilities: Frowny Face Tail Block. Uses the sturdy armor on the giant tail to resist damage. Muscle Thunder Energy. Quickly mobilize the energy in the body's muscles to generate a large amount of thunder energy. Rapid Thunder Armor. Quickly forms a layer of lightning armor around the target, helping to block damage from the outside world. Thunder Armor Amplification. Increase the Rapid Thunder Armor's hardness and ability to withstand damage. When the Rapid Thunder Armor is unable to resist, it will automatically replenish the thunder energy produced by the Muscle Thunder Energy. 100 Armor Demonstration. Instantly explode the thunder energy stored in the body to form hundreds of rapid thunder armor. At the same time, the thunder energy contained in the rapid thunder armor can be condensed into 1 point for effective defense. Exclusive skill: Frowny Face Sturdy Thunder Pattern. Generate a thunder pattern in the thunder that can increase sturdiness. When the thunder pattern is broken, it will instantly release a large amount of thunder energy. Leaping Thunder Pattern. The released thunder is always in an active state. When attacked, the thunder will explode outward and cancel out the attack. A portion of the attack energy will be assimilated into active thunder energy. This 15-meter-long pure white giant crocodile covered in lightning was the same as Shi Su's signature Fey on Star Web. It was the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile. Ever since Lin Yuan possessed the ability of a creation master, he had seen some defense-type Feys. However, most of these defense-type and thunder-type Feys had mediocre aptitudes. This Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile should be a low-grade defense-type, Thunder Attribute Crocodile species Fey that had evolved. However, he did not know which low-grade Thunder Attribute Crocodile species Fey it had evolved from. Even with Morbius True Data, he still could not see what low-grade crocodile species defense-type Thunder Element Fey this Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile had evolved from. Take Chimey as an example. Even Class 5 creation masters like Bamboo Monarch, Chef Supreme, and even Lin Yuan's master, the Moon Empress, had personally studied it. He could not tell that the Silver Eye/Fantasy Eye Chimey had evolved from a sound bird that could not even be considered a fae. The Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's evolution was the same as Chimey's. Its bloodline had been purified and reborn. In his opinion, Chimey was evolving in the direction of a phoenix and purifying its bloodline. This Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was evolving in the direction of a dragon. However, this Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was evolving in the direction of a dragon, not a prehistoric dragon. Instead, it was evolving in the direction of the Flood Dragon bloodline, which was on par with the phoenix in the ancient books. Although this Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was still a crocodile at first glance, its body was not as bloated as a normal crocodile's. Its limbs were also not crawling on the ground like a normal crocodile's. Instead, its forelimbs were long and looked like it was lying on the ground. If a fae, especially a rare defense-type Thunder Attribute fae, could evolve in the direction of a flood dragon, it was equivalent to having infinite possibilities in terms of aptitude. However, Lin Yuan had seen Long Tao's Platinum X/Fantasy 3C King Chok Mosasaur in the Radiant Moon Palace, so he knew that this Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was definitely not Shirsu's strongest fae. The Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile might be Shirsu's signature fae. However, with just this Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, it was impossible for Shirsu to firmly occupy the 6th position in the Radiance 100 sequence. Sure enough, as Lu Jie had said, the Radiance 100 sequence members were all very sinister. Most of the faes revealed were faes that had been used in the selection competition when they had just entered the Radiance 100 sequence. As for their growth over the years after entering the Radiance 100 sequence, they had been hidden and were only waiting for the right time to show their edge. However, Lin Yuan had to admit that this Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was really powerful. It was said that most defense-type Thunder Attribute phase abilities and exclusive skills were rather strange. This was because Thunder was very violent and had strong offensive power. It was not as suitable for defense as water and earth elements. The Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's abilities and exclusive skills were still the same. The Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's normal ability, Tail Block, could be said to be a standard ability that could effectively help the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile block high-intensity attacks. As for the remaining abilities, Muscle Thunder Energy, Thunder Armor Amplification, and 100 Armor Demonstration, they were actually increasing the defensive ability of the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's silver ability, the Rapid Thunder Armor Protection. It made the Rapid Thunder Armor Protection's defensive ability more solid and diverse. Muscle Thunder Energy could effectively increase the amount of thunder elements that the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could control. The Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile was a 15-meter-long prehistoric beast, and its body contained a lot of energy. The Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could quickly convert the energy in its body into a large amount of thunder elements according to Muscle Thunder Energy. Thunder Armor Amplification could maintain the strength of the armor formed by the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's Rapid Thunder Armor Protection by consuming the thunder elemental power that it could control. In other words, the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could only break the armor formed by the Rapid Thunder Armor Protection when there was not a single drop of thunder elements that it could control. 100 Armor Demonstration could turn the Rapid Thunder Armor Protection from a single defense into a group defense. It could also greatly increase the efficiency of the use of thunder elements. It could condense the thunder elements in the thunder armor at one point and use the extremely dense thunder elements to resist damage. It could be said that just based on the Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's abilities, the Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could be considered a top-notch defense-type fae. Moreover, the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's 2 exclusive skills, Sturdy Thunder Pattern and Leaping Thunderbolt, were both under the premise of strengthening the Rapid Thunder Armor's defensive ability. At the same time, it also greatly increased the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's endurance. The large amount of thunder energy released by the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's exclusive skill, Sturdy Thunder Pattern, was enough to instantly replenish the Rapid Thunder Armor's consumption. As for the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's second exclusive skill, Leaping Thunderbolt, it directly used the Thunder Element's attack characteristics. However, the Thunder Element's attack characteristics were cleverly used by the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile for defense. By colliding with the Thunder Elemental energy and the attacked energy, it offset the pressure that the Rapid Thunder Armor needed to bear in defense. Regardless of what trump card Shirsu had been hiding in the past few years as a Radiance 100 sequence member, Shi Su's signature Fey, the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, was enough to make Shi Su the #1 defense-type spirit chi professional among the Radiance Federation's younger generation. And 26168103:2017/12-1009:29:44, and Beast Evolution Quotient Latest Chapter 2775 Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile website. Chapter 276. Although Chu Ci was also a defense-type spirit chi professional, she had a heart that desperately wanted to be reckless. Although Shi Su's Feis were all thunder-type, he had taken the path that a traditional defense-type spirit chi professional should take. In the team, a defense-type spirit chi professional like Shi Su was far more popular than a reckless defense-type spirit chi professional like Chu Ci. Shi Su stood where he was, his peach blossom eyes narrowed under his crew cut. Do you see that? This is strength. Obediently hand over the thing burning with red flames that you just put away, and I'll let you go. Lin Yuan's eyes also narrowed behind his mask. What if I don't hand it over? Shi Su reached out and scratched his head. Looking at your outfit, you're imitating black, right? Someone who idolizes black shouldn't be a bad person, so I can be a little gentler. Lin Yuan raised his brows behind his mask and said, "It seems that I have to hand it over in your eyes." As he spoke, he circulated the spiritual power in his body and quickly conducted the spirit chi into the land under his feet through his feet. As he spoke, he circulated the spiritual power in his body and quickly transmitted the spirit chi into the ground through his feet. This time, the range of the quicksand boiling was not limited to the vicinity of the valley within a radius of 1 to 2 kilometers. The quicksand boiling under his feet was not limited to the vicinity of the valley within a radius of 1 to 2 kilometers. Instead, Lin Yuan made all the sand grains that the source sand had accumulated over the past month agitated. The agitated quicksand brought all the adventurers who were trying to trek across the sea of sand back to the edge of the sea of sand. At the same time, under the injection of Lin Yuan's spiritual power, the color of the sand grains within a radius of 2 kilometers became darker. The color of the sand grains slowly changed from the original brownish yellow to purplish black. The surface of these purplish-black sand grains also carried a layer of black-blue metallic luster, which came from the ferromanganese. At that moment, Lin Yuan urged the source sand with all his might. The source sand mobilized all the sand grains that it had obtained by grinding hard ores in this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift over the past month. These hard sand grains were all plated with a thin layer of the bronze ferromanganese. Shi Su looked at the quicksand that suddenly boiled and jumped onto the Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's back. He could feel the quicksand trying to drag the Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile underground from all directions. Shi Su made the Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile surge with a large amount of thunder element to resist the boiling quicksand. Lin Yuan realized that even though the Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye source sand could already resist platinum phase after accumulating sand grains for over a month, it still could not do anything to the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile. This was because the Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile had already surpassed the strength of a Platinum Fey and reached the combat power of a Diamond Fey. Shi Su, who was standing on the back of the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, said in surprise, "So you were the one who caused the boiling quicksand in the valley. You're much stronger than black now." Before Shi Su could finish speaking, Lin Yuan waved his hand and summoned a Fey that seemed to emit a peony-like purple halo when it flapped its wings. Shi Su's surprise was written all over his face. This Fey was the blue flash purple butterfly, which had a peony-like halo when it flapped its wings and emitted a luxurious purple light shadow. As soon as he summoned the blue flash purple butterfly, Shi Su immediately felt a little embarrassed. He had said so much, but this silver-masked fellow was actually black. Looking at the boiling and boundless quicksand in front of him, Shi Su knew that the strength that Black had displayed on Star Web had been a concealment. Black's true strength was far from as simple as what he had shown on Star Web. Black's Feys were very easy to identify. Whether it was the silver/fantasy breed bird species Fey, the strange plant that could spread a sea of flowers, or the blue flash purple butterfly, they could all directly represent Black's identity. This was because these Feys were unique to Black among the currently known Feys. After summoning the Bronze X/Legend Blue Flash Purple Butterfly, he immediately let it release a large amount of silent scale powder into the quicksand grains that the source sand had spawned. Given the Bronze Blue Flash Purple Butterfly's current standard, It was impossible for the silent scale powder to break through the Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's protective energy layer. Therefore, he could use the quicksand grains spawned by the source sand as the carrier of the Blue Flash Purple Butterfly's silent scale powder. This would allow the silent scale powder to have a chance to attach to the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile. If it was another power offense type Spirit Chi professional with a Platinum/Fantasy breed Fae, he would not have any chance of winning. If he did not use the trump card left by the Mother of Bloodbath or the Moon Empress, he would not have any chance of winning. However, Shirsu was a defense-type Spirit Chi professional and took the traditional defense-type Spirit Chi route. He did not have any powerful offensive ability. Therefore he had a chance to fight. At that moment, Shirsu waved his hand and said, "No more fighting, no more fighting. No more fighting, no more fighting. I Shirsu will not attack my own people." As the Radiance 100 sequence number 6, Shirsu could be considered a top member of the Radiance 100 sequence. As the top expert of the Radiance Federation's younger generation, the Radiance 100 sequence upheld the glory of the Radiance Federation. In particular, Black's battle outside Millstone Town was enough to be called a hero of the Radiance Federation. Therefore, Shirsu would not attack Black for treasures no matter what. If it were other adventurers, Shirsu might not mind telling them that treasures belong to the capable. However, Radiance's faith made Shirsu always choose to face it. In fact, it was also the faith and choice of the Radiance 100's younger generation that allowed the Radiance Federation to constantly become stronger and stronger, allowing the Radiance Federation to stand at the top of this huge world map. This was because unity itself shone with radiant-like light. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly realized that the space around him had darkened. Lin Yuan saw a middle-aged man who looked very strange. This middle-aged man was looking at him with a gaze as if he had just finished his homework and had been torn into pieces in front of him. This time he would be 10,000 times angrier. Lin Yuan could faintly feel that this middle-aged man seemed to be trembling with anger. However, the moment Lin Yuan looked at the middle-aged man, he immediately became vigilant. This was because he did not have an impression of this middle-aged man's appearance. However, this strange middle-aged man's figure completely overlapped with the figure of the middle-aged man who had been sizing him up at the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rifts entrance in Genius Tool Transformation Mask. Suddenly, Lin Yuan felt a violent energy fluctuation. However, it was too late for him to condense 4 wings on his back. He only had time to condense half a wing in front of him with the feathers made of the day and night spirit silver. Lin Yuan was not stingy with the spiritual power in his body and poured it into the day and night spirit silver's half wing. The sudden appearance of this violent energy fluctuation made Lin Yuan feel a fatal threat. Just as Lin Yuan was about to crush the scarlet crystal spider that the Mother of Bloodbath had left for him in his palm, in an instant, Lin Yuan's body was protected by a layer of azure thunder armor. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 277. This thunder armor had the unique patterns on the crocodile leather armor. Immediately after, it seemed that Shirsu had summoned another Fae. The extremely oppressive thunder energy condensed an exquisite leaf that seemed to be carved by thunder outside the rapid thunder armor. Lin Yuan saw a black energy collide with the leaf that was completely carved from thunder and lightning. The thunder energy on the surface of this leaf completely carved by thunder flashed violently. Just as the leaf was about to be destroyed, the dark energy beam also completely dissipated. At that moment, Lin Yuan looked sharply at the middle-aged man who was stepping on the Flozen. Even though he had condensed half of his wings into a wing shield and channeled a large amount of spiritual power, the black energy beam had perfectly exerted the day and night spirit silver's buffering power. If he had not crushed the scarlet crystal spider that the Mother of Bloodbath had given him, he would have been seriously injured. Upon seeing that its attack had not worked, Crow simply wanted to vomit blood. After becoming a suzerain/myth Fae, when had Crow ever suffered such a loss? It was unknown how much effort Crow had put in to raise the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's quality to legend before it reached maturity. Crow had been stuck at suzerain/myth 2 for many years and had not been able to advance. It could be said that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was the only hope for Crow to purify its bloodline and advance to myth 3. A heaven and earth Fae like the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree could be raised to legend at gold. Crow had even used its suzerain/myth 2 blood to feed the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Crow had not hesitated to use the priceless red pagoda as nourishment for the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, hoping that it would mature quickly. But now, Crow's own lifeblood had actually been taken away by someone else in this unexpected turn of events. This caused Crow to go crazy. Crow had been using its blood to feed the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Therefore, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's aura carried a trace of Crow's blood. This was also why Crow had attacked with 100% of its power the moment it saw Lin Yuan. This was because Lin Yuan's body was stained with the smell of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree with Crow's blood. However, Crow's main body was now at the seaside hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, completing the task assigned by Lord 7th Page War. Crow was now only using a drop of his blood and relying on his exclusive skill's ability to descend onto this body that had the exclusive imprint. Therefore, Crow's current ability could only be maintained at the standard of Diamond Level 5 Flawless. The hatred in Crow's heart was burning so fiercely that it was about to burn itself into ashes. If there was a person Crow hated the most, it would undoubtedly be Lin Yuan. However, the person Crow hated the second most was not Shirsu, who had helped Lin Yuan block the attack. It was Cheng Wu. If it wasn't for the fact that Cheng Wu had trained this idiot, who acted like he was suffering from anxiety and paranoia and only knew how to observe instead of reporting directly to him, Cheng Wu wouldn't have been so stupid. If he had known that something would happen, he would have immediately taken away the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree and the red pagoda and the golden disc, no matter how far away he was. If Crow didn't treat the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift outside of the royal capital as the final stop of his plan, he would have thought that Crow wouldn't have been able to escape. Furthermore, it would make use of the massive fire elements in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift to nurture the red pagoda and produce the life-form sacrificial fire, allowing the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree to devour it and quickly mature. Crow wouldn't let something as important as the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree leave its side. However, Crow now felt a sense of helplessness. His main body could not come over, and the clone formed by his exclusive skill was too weak. Thinking of that, Crow raised his hand and slapped himself across the face. The Crow's body was in pain, but in his heart he felt much better. If not for the fact that the main body's soul had dissipated after Crow's doppelganger descended upon this body, Crow really wanted to drag the original soul out and question it. Why did the Radiance 100 sequence members appear in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, but why didn't they inform him in advance? Shirsu shouted directly. Who are you? How dare you try to kill him? When Crow heard this, he was so angry that he let out a strange crow-like caw. Crow was just about to curse back. Kill my ass. If my main body was here, I would have killed all of you. A huge skate with a dark blue body and light blue patterns on its body flew down from the sky. When Crow saw this, he glared at Lin Yuan fiercely. Then he turned into a black mist and scuttled into the distance. Lin Yuan's palm, which had been tightly gripping the crimson crystal spider, loosened its strength. Lin Yuan turned his head and looked at Shirsu. Shirsu chuckled and pointed at himself with a thumbs up as he said, "My defense is strong, right?" Lin Yuan remembered Shirsu in his heart. As a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, Shirsu had wanted to snatch what was in Lin Yuan's hands. Lin Yuan had not thought of giving in and had intended to resist to the end. However, just before that attack, which was not fatal but was enough to seriously injure or even kill him, Shirsu had helped him block the attack. Shirsu had helped him block the attack. This was a favor. However, when Shirsu had helped him defend at that time, the leaf made of thunder and lightning in front of him was obviously not a power that the Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile could use. Lin Yuan thought of the extremely oppressive thunder-type energy and the leaf condensed from thunder and lightning. This unknown defense-type thunder-type plant should be Shirsu's trump card. Now, Lin Yuan had seen the power of the Radiance 100 sequence's number 6 member revealing his trump card. Lin Yuan now knew the gap between his combat power and the Radiance 100's top combat power. As long as he did not have a Platinum Fantasy Breed Fae, he would not be able to reach the top of the Radiance 100 sequence. In fact, it was not enough for a Platinum Fantasy Breed Fae to reach Fantasy Eye. It had to be at least Fantasy 3. At this time, the dark blue skate with light blue patterns on its body had already flown close to them. A young girl's exclamation suddenly came from the skate. Fuck. Shirsu, why do I see you everywhere I go? You're really worthy of being the working emperor. When Lin Yuan heard this voice, he felt it was very familiar. He turned around and realized that it was Zhao Xiaochun. Lin Yuan looked at the people on the skate's back and realized that he knew them. He could not help but sigh. The controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift near the royal capital was really strange. At that moment, 4 members of the Radiance 100 sequence had actually gathered here. Radiance 100 sequence number 3, Overflowing Sea Long Tao. Radiance 100 sequence number 6, Thunder Feast Shirsu. Radiance 100 sequence number 21, Anorexia, Zhao Xiaochun. Radiance 100 Sequence Number 43 Fang Duo Duo. According to Lu Jie, Zhao Xiaochun's original title seemed to be Critical Needle Lady. However, after Zhao Xiaochun had applied to the Radiance Sacred Hall for nearly 100 times, the Radiance Sacred Hall had no choice but to change her official title to Anorexia. When Shirsu heard Zhao Xiaochun's voice, his eyes instantly turned red. He looked at Zhao Xiaochun fiercely and roared. "Zhao Xiaochun, how dare you call me the Working Emperor? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have become the Working Emperor." Baiduan read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 278. Zhao Xiaochun, who was on the back of this dark blue giant ray with light blue patterns, could not help but roll her eyes when she heard Shirsu's words. "Shirzu, what does the bankruptcy of your 5 restaurant chains have to do with me, Zhao Xiaochun? I have to spend money when I go to your store." It would have been better if Zhao Xiaochun had not spoken, but Shirsu's eyes turned redder. "Zhao Xiaochun, my name is Shirsu, not Shirzu." Due to his talent, Shirsu could only contract defense-type and thunder-type phase. Due to the scarcity of defense-type phase and the high cost of nurturing them, Shirsu had always been very short of resources. Putting aside the resources that Shirsu had poured into nurturing his trump cards during the few years he had been a Radiance 100 Sequence member, Shirsu had nurtured this Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, which had stimulated the Flood Dragon bloodline, in order to ensure that the Flood Dragon bloodline in the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile's body was constantly recovering. Shirsu did not know how many Radiance dollars he had to spend. Shirsu had actually saved up a lot of extra money during the few years he had been a Radiance 100 Sequence member. With extra money, Shirsu set his sights on investing in restaurant chains. As long as the ingredients in the restaurant were diversified and of relatively high grade, he would not have to worry about not being able to sell them. Shirsu had originally planned to focus on operating these 5 restaurant chains to earn resources for nurturing phase in the future. Shirsu had even spent a lot of money to poach an experienced manager from the Radiance Federation's most famous restaurant, the Spirit Food Pavilion. Everything was ready, but Shirsu's mistake was that he had opened the restaurant as a buffet. Furthermore, Shirsu's 5 buffet restaurant chains had been targeted by Zhao Xiaochun. In less than a year since he had been targeted by Zhao Xiaochun, Shirsu's beautiful dream of accumulating resources through the restaurant chains had been shattered. Shirsu had worked hard for so many years and had lost all his savings. Shirsu had to face the spiritual ingredients and large amounts of resources needed for his phase to evolve. Shirsu gritted his teeth and became a working emperor, working 10 jobs. In fact, Shirsu had come to this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift to take the risk. It was also because Shirsu wanted to find as much spare time as possible to accumulate more resources before the start of the S tournament. Shirsu was so angry that he almost started burping. However, before Shirsu could say anything, Zhao Xiaochun tossed the pig trotter that she had gnawed to the bone at the bottom of the giant ray. "Shirsu, the pork trotters I am gnawing on now aren't as delicious as the silver tendon black boar's tendon leg. Also, the grilled fish in your shop is also very good." While speaking, Zhao Xiaochun smacked her lips. It was hard to tell whether she was recalling the taste of the pork trotter or the taste of Shirsu's restaurant. Chen Hongfeng and Fang Duo looked at each other and couldn't help but cast a sympathetic look at Shirsu. Shirsu was such a pitiful man. Shirsu angrily slapped the back of the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, making dong-dong sounds. The Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile thought that its master was playing with it, so it tilted its head and let out a comfortable grunt. However, Shirsu's hand hurt from the impact. Shirsu said angrily, "Zhao Xiaochun, if not for you, the money I earn from 5 chain restaurants every day is enough to buy a bronze/epic fei." Zhao Xiaochun spat and turned around to pull Fang Duo and Chen Hongfeng over. "One of you wake him up with peeing. Those with diabetes don't come. Don't let him taste the sweetness." Zhao Xiaochun's words made Lin Yuan, Shirsu, Long Tao, Fang Duo, and Chen Hongfeng break out in cold sweat. How could a girl say such words in public? Long Tao couldn't help but rub his temples, feeling that his head was starting to hurt again. Long Tao now really felt that if Fang Duo and Zhao Xiaochun quarreled in the future, he really couldn't always scold Fang Duo. Given Zhao Xiaochun's performance, Fang Duo was really wronged. Zhao Xiaochun didn't stop no matter who she was with. However, Long Tao's eyes were already fixed on Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had already put away the Bronze X/Legend Blue Flash Purple Butterfly. However, Long Tao only needed a glance to identify Lin Yuan's faint aura. Lin Yuan's temperament was very similar to Black's temperament that Long Tao had seen on Star Web. However, Long Tao thought about it carefully and felt that it was different. In the star web, Black gave off a silent and aloof feeling. However, Black had a youthful feeling that Long Tao was very familiar with. And now, after seeing Black in reality, Long Tao found that the familiar youthful feeling on Black had become stronger. However, the cold and aloof feeling he gave off on star web was gone. Instead, it was a tenacious and indifferent feeling. The more Long Tao paid attention to Black, the more he felt that the familiar feeling Black gave him became stronger. However, Long Tao couldn't remember where this familiar feeling came from. Long Tao jumped onto the back of Plenty's Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Fear Ray. He walked straight in front of Lin Yuan and said, "Let's go. I'm the captain of the Dragon Gate Guild Club's S Tournament main team, Long Tao. The transfer period for the S Tournament will end in less than 3 days. Our Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team is still lacking a spot. I wonder if you're willing to join the Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team?" Before Lin Yuan could react, Shi Su was rather surprised to hear Long Tao's words. Putting aside the fact that Long Tao was the Radiance 100 Sequence 3, just the fact that he was the captain of the Dragon Gate Guild Club's S Tournament main team was enough to not allow him to do things so rashly. The Guild Alliance's S Tournament was about to begin. Why was he inviting others to join the team now? It seemed like the Dragon Gate Guild Club was still lacking a main team member this year. Not only was Shi Su a member of the S Tournament's main team, but his main team, the Rhine Guild Club, had also won the championship of the Radiance Federation's Guild Alliance's S Tournament last year. The Rhine Club Union had also become the leader of the many club unions this year. Shi Su had always regarded the Dragon Gate Guild Club as his team's formidable opponent in this year's S Tournament. But now, it seemed that the Dragon Gate Guild Club still had no way to fight with the Rhine Guild Club's main team this year. Be it Long Tao, Zhao Xiaochun, Fang Duo, or another main team member who did not appear here, they were undoubtedly Radiance 100 Sequence members. The Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team's equipment could be said to be very luxurious. If there was another Radiance 100 Sequence member, they could be called an all-star team. The Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team members were strong individually. However, the 4 power offense-type Spirit Chi professionals were equivalent to 4 boorish men. There were no support-type Spirit Chi professionals, defense-type Spirit Chi professionals, or healing-type Spirit Chi professionals to fight in the team. No matter how strong an individual was in the team battle, they would not be able to stand in the S Tournament's team battlefield. This was because the Radiance Federation's Guild Alliance's S Tournament was never a one-man game. When Lin Yuan heard Long Tao's abrupt words, he was stunned and then pondered. Baidu, read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 279. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and shook his head gently. I have no intention of joining anyone's club or union. Lin Yuan was very honest and didn't have any shyness about rejecting someone else's invitation. This was because he had already made plans for the guild club in his heart. When Long Tao heard this, although he was a little disappointed, he was not dispirited. Instead, he smiled and reached out his hand. My name is Long Tao, let's be friends. From Lin Yuan's words, Long Tao understood that Lin Yuan planned to set up his own guild club in the future. It would be a lie to say that Long Tao was not disappointed when he was rejected, but he was only a little disappointed at the beginning. After all, Long Tao had been looking for the silver-masked young man in front of him for a long time. Ever since Long Tao had the idea of recruiting Black to join his team, Long Tao's thoughts had never changed. After Long Tao understood Black's plan, he suddenly felt that Black was a bit like him a few years ago. Long Tao had single-handedly established the Dragon Gate Guild Club after he had made up his mind. It was just that Long Tao thought that when he was at Black's age, if he had received an invitation from the top 3 guilds, he would not have been able to do so. Even if he would refuse, he would not refuse so calmly. For some reason, Long Tao suddenly felt a sense of sympathy for him. However, even if Black did not join the Dragon Gate Guild Club, Long Tao also had his own confidence and trump cards in the Radiance Federation's Guild Alliance S Tournament. That was because Long Tao never liked to place his bets on others. If Long Tao liked to place his bets on others, then he would definitely not be able to sit firmly in the Radiance 100 Sequence's 3rd position. The Dragon Gate Guild Club would not have reached the top 3 in last year's S Tournament. Lin Yuan looked at Long Tao's outstretched hand, and his face behind the mask revealed a sunny smile. He stretched out his hand and shook Long Tao's hand. Long Tao looked at the silver-masked young man before him and praised him. Looking at this valley full of quicksand, I know I should congratulate you in advance for entering the Radiance 100 this year. Long Tao's words startled Lin Yuan. It had been more than a month since he came out to train. His virtual image on the Stairway Tree Achievement altar should have appeared long ago. The news of him participating in the Radiance 100 sequence selection should have already been publicized by the Radiance Sacred Hall. Lin Yuan immediately thought of Tian Ningning. Tian Ningning was Lin Yuan's exclusive reporter, but he had forgotten to inform her of his news in advance. When Lin Yuan and Tian Ningning had signed the exclusive reporter contract, Tian Ningning's eyes lit up. According to the contents of the exclusive reporter contract, Lin Yuan should inform Tian Ningning of his important matters in advance. This way Tian Ningning would be able to answer to the Star Web officials. Lin Yuan had really forgotten about these things during this period of time, so he couldn't help but feel a little apologetic toward Tian Ningning. Once he exited the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, he would take the initiative to contact Tian Ningning and tell her all the information he should have told her in one go. After losing contact for more than a month, Tian Ningning was probably going crazy. At this moment he suddenly heard the unique roars of the Abyss Devils coming from afar. Immediately after, Lin Yuan felt the sand under his feet tremble due to the countless demons stepping on the ground. The unique roars of the Abyss Dimensional Rift's demons rose and fell, coordinating with the trembling sand under Lin Yuan's feet. He immediately knew that a large number of demons had arrived outside the valley. The roars of the demons in the Abyss Dimensional Rift already had the effect of intimidating one's spirit. The roars of some high-level demons also had the effect of a mental attack. Such a complex and massive demon roar reminded Lin Yuan of the insect sea that had surged out of the Pinnacle Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift outside Millstone Town and let out insect cries. However, the roar of the evil demons in the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was far more powerful than the alien insects in the insect sea. Moreover, even the individual strength of the Class 3 alien insects that appeared in the peak Class 1 insect tide was far inferior to the most ordinary Class 3 demons. However, Lin Yuan's strength and the teammates around him were no longer the same as before. The powerful fire element in the Scarlet Flame Vortex not only attracted the attention of the human adventurers, but also attracted the attention of the human adventurers. At the same time, it also attracted the demons in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. There were many adventurers in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Apart from searching for fire element spiritual ingredients, most of them treated killing demons as a form of income. In addition, during this period of time, Su, who was known as the Working Emperor, Lin Yuan, and the Dragon Gate Guild Club members were training in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. As a result, the number of high-level demons in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift had been greatly reduced. However, looking at the current situation, it was likely that the number of demons in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift had decreased significantly. Apart from the demons that were still surging out from the Abyss World Hub of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, most of the remaining demons should have gathered outside the valley. There were a total of 2 ways for the dimensional demons to increase their strength. The first was to rely on the complex genetic model in their bodies to devour the flesh and blood of the opposing demons and the corpses of the demons that died in battle to increase their strength. The other method was to devour fire element spiritual ingredients and absorb the large amount of fire element energy in the Abyss Dimensional Rift to increase their combat strength. The Abyss world that the Abyss Dimensional Rift was connected to was a world filled with fire elements. Therefore, the demons' attributes were almost all fire element. It could be imagined just how attractive the fire-attributed energy in the huge flame vortex was to the abyssal demons. When Lin Yuan, Long Tao, Su, Fang Duo, Zhao Xiaochun, and Chen Hongfeng arrived at the entrance of the valley, Lin Yuan found that the endless demons had surrounded the entrance of the valley. The adventurers who had been dragged to the entrance of the valley by the source sand had also rushed into the valley. These adventurers had used all their resources and strength to set up fortifications at the valley entrance. Chapter 280. Upon seeing this, Long Tao looked at Lin Yuan and said, "That's right. Even if you don't join the Dragon Gate Guild Club, why don't we form a temporary team and get through this together?" After Lin Yuan nodded, Long Tao turned to Su and said, "In a while I, Fang Duo, and Zhao Xiaochun will be the main attackers. You'll be in charge of supporting us from the side." Su glanced at Long Tao unhappily. "Do I need you to tell me that?" Lin Yuan's eyes were brimming with a strong fighting spirit. Among such a large number of demons, a large portion of them were Tier 2 demons. However, the number of Level 3 demons was not small, and there were even Level 4 demons among them. The demons in the Abyss Dimensional Rift didn't rely on numbers to win. Instead, they relied on their individual strength. Therefore, every demon that could survive the Abyss Dimensional Rift was considered an elite unit. If he were to rely on his own strength now, he would not be able to deal with these demons. However, with the Radiance 100 sequence members like Long Tao, Fang Duo Duo, and Zhao Xiaochun, the damage to these Class 3 and Class 4 demons was enough. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not intend to take the offensive route in this battle. As a healing type and support type spirit chi professional, Lin Yuan had always been obsessed with output. This was because the output would allow him to have a trump card to protect himself in the face of danger. He could control his own life and death in his own hands. However, in such a large-scale battle, Lin Yuan was considered an all-round spirit chi professional. Naturally, he would determine his position in the battle according to the battle situation. At that moment, Long Tao scanned the boundless demon sea a few times, and his expression changed slightly as he said to Lin Yuan. When the battle starts in a while, can your quicksand try to sink the flesh of the killed demons into the sea of sand? There are a few devouring demon squads in this sea of demons. If these devouring demons have a large amount of demon flesh and blood, they will become a huge threat. Lin Yuan naturally knew about the Devourer demon. It was a kind of Class 3 demon. Devourer was considered the weakest among demons of the same rank. However, for a short period of time, demon devourers could devour the flesh and blood of other demons to increase their combat power. Although the Devourer demon's combat strength would only increase for a short period of time after devouring the demon's flesh and blood, the Devourer demon's combat strength would still increase. However, after such a large number of demons were killed, the Devourer demon would devour a huge amount of demon flesh and blood, and the threat it posed would be close to that of a Class 5 Diamond Fae. Upon hearing Long Tao's words, Lin Yuan summoned Red Thorn. At this moment, Red Thorn was already a size bigger than before. Red Thorn's mouth of Relinquish had also become bigger, and the 12 giant mouths on the mouth of Relinquish had also become sharper. As these huge teeth chewed, they greatly increased Red Thorn's digestive ability. Red Thorn's Ortet's vines had also changed. Red Thorn's Ortet's vines were no longer as thin and long as before. However, the vines of Red Thorn's Ortet were sharper and thicker. Since Red Thorn had chosen to use child ramets and ramets to spread out a sea of flowers, Red Thorn's broodmother no longer needed to increase its attack range. These child ramets and ramets were Red Thorn's sharpest claws and teeth. Therefore, Red Thorn had compressed its Ortet's combat power to within 3 meters. Such a change made Red Thorn's Ortet's combat power much stronger than before. In the process of devouring dimensional lifeforms' flesh and blood, Red Thorn's intelligence was also slowly growing. Red Thorn's current evolution method also had its own selfish motives. While Red Thorn was evolving according to the evolution direction given by Lin Yuan, its weak intelligence also hoped that it could better protect Lin Yuan. Just like now, after Red Thorn was summoned, its smooth vine without any thorns had already wrapped around Lin Yuan's wrist. It conveyed intimacy and dependence to Lin Yuan. The acid corrosion queen bee also flew out of Red Thorn's mouth of Relinquish and landed on the smooth vine that was wrapped around Lin Yuan's wrist, jumping eagerly. The acid corrosion queen bee's action seemed to be competing for Red Thorn's favor, but it was ruthlessly thrown off the smooth vine by Red Thorn. However, the acid corrosion queen bee still surrounded Red Thorn and fawned on it. This was the true portrayal of a bootlicker like Ben Go. After devouring a lot of demon flesh over the past month, Red Thorn was almost completely immune to the burning acidity of demon flesh. At the same time, he was also quite resistant to the withering characteristics of the devil flame. Even the child ramets and ramets produced by Red Thorn's mother ramets carried the characteristics inherited from Red Thorn's mother ramets. The flesh and blood of the massive sea of demons were the best nutrients for Red Thorn to raise its strength. Previously, outside of Millstone Town, the Pinnacle Class 1-dimensional Rift's insect tide had allowed Red Thorn to increase its grade and even upgrade its quality to epic. For example, the energy contained in the dead dimensional lifeform's flesh stored in the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box could not be compared to the energy contained in the flesh that had just died in a fresh state. The energy contained in the flesh and blood of these recently dead dimensional creatures could quickly help Red Thorn evolve and improve its quality. Upon hearing Long Tao's words, Lin Yuan replied calmly, "Just leave the flesh and blood of these dead demons to me." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words and seeing Lin Yuan summon that strange plant Fei, Long Tao couldn't help but be a little surprised. Everyone knew that the abyss-dimensional life forms, demons, could restrain plant-type Feis. However, Black actually wanted to use this strange plant to devour the flesh and blood of those dead demons. Not to mention that the burning characteristics of the demon flesh and blood would cause damage to plants. However, could this strange plant really devour the massive amount of demon flesh and blood that would be left behind after the battle started? A few Pinnacle Class 4 demons stood at the forefront of this sea of demons. Lin Yuan found that most of these Pinnacle Class 4 demons had evolved from Horn Demon's genetic model. However, these Pinnacle Class 4 demons that had evolved from Horn Demons had a certain difference in appearance. This meant that the Horn Demon's genetic model had deviated from Class 2 to Class 4. However, these deviations allowed these Pinnacle Class 4 demons to have their own attack methods. As these Pinnacle Class 4 demons roared, the massive demon army seemed to have received some orders and quickly rushed toward the human adventurers in the valley. Chapter 281. Long Tao did not hide his strength and took the lead to summon the prehistoric behemoth that he had seen in the Radiant Moon Palace. Sea King Chok Mosasaurus. When Long Tao summoned the Sea King Chok Mosasaur, it immediately ignited the fighting spirit of the Spirit Chi professionals present. The eyes of these Spirit Chi professionals, who had thought that a disaster was coming, flashed with hope. The Sea King Chok Mosasaurus had been Long Tao's signature Fey since the prehistoric epoch. However, apart from this Sea King Chok Mosasaurus, he did not know if Long Tao had other trump cards. At present, the Sea King Chok Mosasaurus was still Platinum X/Fantasy 3. Clearly, Long Tao was still stuck at the standard of a B-rank Spirit Chi professional and had not broken through to A rank. As long as Long Tao broke through to A rank, this Platinum X/Fantasy 3 Sea King Chok Mosasaurus could break through to Diamond. At that time, Long Tao could be called a King-class expert. However, Long Tao's current strength was already more amazing than some ordinary King-class experts' combat power. It was extremely difficult for a Fantasy breed Fey to evolve to Fantasy 3. Zhao Xiaochun and Fang Duo also summoned their Feys and launched an attack on the incoming Demon Sea. Qin Hongfeng didn't step forward. He summoned his contracted gold Fey, the huge-tailed swamp lizard, and commanded it to use the swamp to control and deal magic damage to the demon army. He finally knew why Zhao Xiaochun's title in the Radiance 100 sequence was Critical Needle Lady. It was because Zhao Xiaochun's Fey was a Platinum V/Fantasy 2 Cold Needle Sea Urchin. The Cold Needle Sea Urchin was a Fey that pushed its output to the extreme. However, while Feys like the Cold Needle Sea Urchin pursued extreme output, its defense was almost at the bottom among Platinum Feys. In fact, among Platinum Feys, the Cold Needle Sea Urchin could be described as fragile as paper. Shirsu looked at the Platinum V/Fantasy 2 Cold Needle Sea Urchin that Zhao Xiaochun had summoned and exclaimed, "This black-hearted maggot signature Fey, the Cold Needle Sea Urchin, has actually been upgraded to Fantasy 2. Could it be that Zhao Xiaochun hasn't spent any resources on her trump card during this time?" With that thought in mind, Shirsu shook his head. Based on Shirsu's understanding of Zhao Xiaochun's trump card had probably become even stronger. It seemed like Zhao Xiaochun would make a move in the Radiance 100 sequence rankings this year or next year. Looking at Zhao Xiaochun's stance, she seemed to be planning on charging into the top 10. Although Zhao Xiaochun ate a lot, was evil and had a foul mouth, Shirsu couldn't help but sigh at Zhao Xiaochun's talent. Even among the Radiance 100, Zhao Xiaochun's talent could be considered top-notch. With that thought, Shirsu looked at Lin Yuan who was standing beside him. Shirsu was speechless. In terms of talent, who could match the youth standing next to him at this age? If there was really a comparison, it would probably be that young lady who possessed a bronze fantasy breed Fey in Redbud City. Shirsu shook his head and let his Platinum 4/Fantasy Eye Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile use its Platinum Skill 100 Armor demonstration. Those adventurers who rushed forward to fight in the Demon Sea, as well as Long Tao, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duoduo's contracted Feys, immediately put on a layer of Thunder Elemental Armor. These Thunder Elemental Armors also had fine thunder patterns on them. However, after putting on the Raging Thunder Armor, Shirsu's expression was a little heavy. This was because Shirsu's contracted Fey, the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, could only release over 100 Raging Thunder Armor pieces. This was considered extremely high among Spirit Chi professionals who specialized in defense. However, there were simply too many of these adventurers and Shirsu could only take care of over 100 of them. However, when the demon army really clashed with the human adventurers, Shirsu was surprised to find that there were too many of them. Whenever a demon was about to attack the human adventurers, and these human adventurers couldn't be bothered to parry, a wisp of gravel would appear on the ground to block the demon's attack. Even if some gravel was not enough to completely block the demon's attack, it could still minimize the damage caused by the demon. This scene was noticed by many adventurers. The human adventurers who noticed this scene couldn't help but turn their attention to the back of the team. They looked at the silver-masked youth who was releasing spirit chi inside the strange plant and did not speak much but had an indifferent bearing. Previously, the adventurers' attention had been on Long Tao, Fang Duo, Zhao Xiaochun, and Shi Su. Long Tao, Shi Su, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duo, the 4 Radiance 100 sequence members, held the hope of these adventurers in desperate situations. However, when many people saw this strange plant, a name flashed in their minds. This name was Black. If Shi Su's Raging Thunder armor could allow high-grade adventurers to hit their output without any worries, they did not need to worry about defending against the attacks that they would face in defense. In that case, Black manipulating the gravel to block the attack from the Demon Sea was equivalent to a redemption. It was to redeem the lives of the low-level adventurers who were fighting for survival in the catastrophe of the Demon Sea. Lin Yuan commanded Red Thorn to release a large number of spores from the spore cavity. However, when these spores took root on the large number of demon flesh on the battlefield, Red Thorn did not let all of them hatch. Instead, it let one of the spores absorb the huge amount of energy in the demon flesh that had just died, evolve into a ramete, and increase its grade to the limit that a ramete could reach. Then, it let the ramete devour the demon flesh on this battlefield. Whenever a ramete was smashed by the demon, Red Thorn would control another spore to hatch next to the smashed ramete. Previously, Red Thorn had taken the massive path of child rametes and rametes. However, according to the situation on the battlefield this time, Lin Yuan let Red Thorn change to the elite path. After changing to the elite path, the rametes in the Sea of Flowers had become much sparser. However, only such rametes could devour the energy in the demon flesh unscrupulously. Otherwise, if the young child rametes devoured the Class 3 abyssal demon flesh that was equivalent to a gold fey, they would be destroyed by the burning characteristic of the demon flesh. Only these pinnacle elite-grade rametes could devour the Class 3 abyssal demon flesh without withering due to the burning characteristic of the demon flesh. Every bundle of gravel that Lin Yuan controlled was equivalent to saving a low-grade adventurer's life. Although there would still be adventurers falling under the attack of the demon army in this web of life made of gravel, the number of fallen adventurers was extremely small. Among these adventurers, there were also many healing-type spirit chi professionals. This was because teams without healing-type spirit chi professionals would rarely rush to this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift to train. Because of the fine gravel, even if those low-grade adventurers were seriously injured, they would be able to recover with the healing of the healing-type spirit chi professionals. Because of the fine gravel, even if those low-grade adventurers were seriously injured, they would be able to recover with the healing of the healing-type spirit chi professionals. Baidu read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 282. Lin Yuan no longer needed to inject spiritual power into Red Thorn's body to let it release spores. Since Red Thorn was taking the elite route this time, it did not need to spit out too many spores from the spore cavity. With the large amount of flesh and blood of the demons that had just died on the battlefield, Red Thorn no longer had any pressure to produce rametes. This saved a lot of spiritual power in Lin Yuan's body. Using the Source Sand's simple defensive behavior on this huge battlefield required a lot of Lin Yuan's mind and spiritual power. However, after Lin Yuan opened the Spirit Chi imprint that had accumulated a lot of Spirit Chi over the past month, combined with the Source Sand's exclusive skill, Sand Control, the amount of spiritual power that he needed to consume to maintain this simple protection for the low-grade adventurers on the battlefield was still within the range that he could bear. At the same time, Lin Yuan summoned his Silver Eye/Fantasy Eye healing-type Fey, Jasmine Lily. Almost every famous expert of the younger generation had their own signature Fey. For example, Long Tao's signature Fey was the Sea King Chalk Mosasaur, Shi Su's signature Fey was the Silent Thunder Armored Crocodile, and Zhao Xiaochun's signature Fey was the Cold Needle Sea Urchin. However, Black's signature Fey had always been a huge controversy between the Jasmine Lily and Red Thorn on Star Web. Regardless of whether it was the Silver/Fantasy Jasmine Lily or Red Thorn that Lin Yuan had summoned as Black, their performance in the Millstone Town battle had been too dazzling. When Lin Yuan summoned the Silver/Fantasy Jasmine Lily and injected spiritual power into it, the Jasmine Lily's emerald green petals immediately rippled with a green haze. Each light spot that contained a huge amount of vitality flew out of the Jasmine Lily's flower head like a firefly. Whenever a firefly light landed on an injured spirit chi professional, it would immediately heal the injured spirit chi professional. Although some low-grade spirit chi professionals would lose their arms in the battle with the Demon Sea, Lin Yuan could only do so much to keep them alive. However, all Lin Yuan could do was to preserve their lives. If he wanted to use the Jasmine Lily's exclusive skill, Severed Limbs, to regenerate their severed arms, it would undoubtedly consume a lot of his spiritual power. The consumption of spiritual power in Lin Yuan's body was equivalent to him saving fewer adventurers' lives. The gathered Demon Sea was ultimately like a river without a source. Even if there were a lot of them, they could not be replenished after being killed. After nearly 4 hours of killing, the last pinnacle leveled 4 demon in this huge sea of demons turned into dust after Long Tao used the Sea Emperor Dragon Breath skill of the Platinum X/Fantasy 3 Sea King Chalk Mosasaurus. As this pinnacle class 4 demon turned into dust, the Demon Sea was completely defeated. The low-grade adventurers all sat on the ground and took in deep breaths of the abyss-dimensional rift's scorching sulfuric air. However, this air, which they usually felt disgusting, now smelled exceptionally sweet. At that moment, Lin Yuan, Long Tao, Shisu, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duo might not feel like they had survived a calamity. Such a threat was not fatal to experts like Lin Yuan, Shisu, Long Tao, Fang Duo, and Zhao Xiaochun. Even if he didn't use the source-type extreme token that his master, the Moon Empress, had given him, he would be able to use it once. Just the scarlet crystal spider that the Mother of Bloodbath had given him could guarantee his safety. For those low-grade adventurers, this war with the Demon Sea was a new lease of life. The 5 people in front of them were the 5 heavenly gods who had brought new life when they were at the most desperate time of their lives and felt the fear of death. The 5 people in front of them were the 5 heavenly gods who had given them a new lease of life when they were at the most desperate point of their lives, when they were overwhelmed by the sea of demons and felt the fear of death. To these adventurers, the 5 celestial gods weren't just their hope, but they were also the hope of the Radiance Federation's younger generation and the Radiance Federation. However, although Long Tao, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duoduo's offensive had established the victory of this Demon Sea's battle intent. But to these low-ranked adventurers, every wisp of yellow sand was the true salvation of their lives. Many low-grade adventurers could not remember how many times they had been in despair. When they thought that their lives were about to wither in the Demon Sea, those wisps of yellow sand had helped them support the courage to survive and build a bridge to life. Some adventurers had even been saved by those wisps of sand no less than 100 times during these 4 hours of fighting with the Demon Sea. Every one of the 100 attacks from the demons that landed on his body resulted in a death. However, each time they died, they would pass the shadow of death under the protection of the yellow sand and move toward the dawn of life. These low-grade adventurers looked at the silver-masked youth with burning eyes. Someone shouted, "Black," and all these low-level adventurers rushed towards the silver-masked youth. Red Thorn sensed a large number of creatures running toward Lin Yuan and immediately got into an attack stance. Lin Yuan hurriedly appeased Red Thorn, but at that moment, these low-grade adventurers had already run close to him. They lifted him up and threw him high into the sky. These low-grade adventurers' throats were stuck in these low-grade adventurers' throats. These low-grade adventurers did not know what to say and only knew to shout, "Black! Long live! This overwhelming black! Long live!" In this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift, a voice that was even louder than the Demon Sea's roar. Long live! It was blessings, gratitude, faith, and radiance. Long Tao stood beside Shisu and looked at Black, who was caught and thrown by the low-grade adventurer, with a carefree smile on his face. Young people nowadays are really incredible. If old people like us don't work hard, we will soon be left behind by these young people. Shisu rolled his eyes at Long Tao and said, "Don't. You're an old man and I'm still a young man. Just don't be left behind by me." Shigong immediately regretted his words. Long Tao looked at Shisu with a faint smile which made Shisu shiver. How could Shisu suddenly forget that Long Tao was publicly acknowledged by the Radiance 100 members as an yin-yang person? The dialogue between yin and yang could turn into countless soft knives that could pierce one's heart. Sure enough, Shisu only heard Long Tao say, "I apologize to you on behalf of our Dragon Gate Guild Club's member, Zhao Xiaochun. If it wasn't for Zhao Xiaochun, you wouldn't have invested 80 million Radiance dollars and only earned 22 Radiance dollars in the end. You might have lost all your 80 million Radiance dollars, but this investment can also bring you growth." Shisu took a deep breath and thought that Long Tao was already an old yin-yang person, so he had been telling himself not to be angry. Baiduan read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 283. However, when Shirsu turned his head, he saw Zhao Xiaoqun standing there. He had no idea when she had taken out roasted spinach and was stuffing it into her mouth. Shirsu was so angry that he stared at Zhao Xiaoqun with his eyes wide open. Zhao Xiaoqun looked at the silver-masked youth who had been thrown into the air, and her face suddenly turned pink. He looked at Fang Duo and said, "Fang Duo, get me Black's number. I want all of Black's contact information in 3 minutes." Fang Duo looked at Zhao Xiaoqun with his mouth agape. "Didn't you talk about treating Lin Yuan and Lu Jie to a meal?" Zhao Xiaoqun looked at Fang Duo like he was an idiot. "Big brother, what does me treating Lin Yuan to a meal have to do with knowing Black's contact information? They're all so handsome, yet I, Zhao Xiaoqun, can't get to know them?" Suddenly, Zhao Xiaoqun turned her head and saw Shirsu staring at her with wide eyes. Zhao Xiaoqun chuckled evilly. "Iron fool, you can't see clearly. Use a cutter to cut your eyes." After saying that, Zhao Xiaoqun patted Fang Duo, who was next to her. Fang Duo was helpless, but he understood what she meant. "Skr." Shirsu suddenly felt his blood rush to his head, and then he was so angry that his eyes became moist. Zhao Xiaoqun smiled happily when she saw that Shirsu was infuriated by her. Although Shirsu's 5 chain restaurants had been taken over by Zhao Xiaoqun had a clear conscience. Zhao Xiaoqun patted her stomach with some melancholy. Ever since his contracted source-type life form had matured, he had never tasted satiety. However, he had become hungry and stronger. Although Shirsu was jokingly called the working emperor in the Radiance Federation's 100 sequence, he was definitely not the poorest person in the Radiance 100 sequence. The poorest person in the Radiance 100 sequence would probably be Zhao Xiaoqun herself. Although Zhao Xiaoqun had lost count of how many restaurants in the royal capital had been ruined, she had used the money she had earned to compensate them after she had ruined them. Moreover, the compensation was not small. If the person who received the compensation was willing, he could open another restaurant of a similar scale. Zhao Xiaoqun had used her other identity to pay out the compensation. It was just that these people who received the compensation would probably never want to open a restaurant again in this life. Zhao Xiaoqun even emptied her purse to compensate Shirsu for the loss of his 5 restaurant chains. Previously, when Shirsu had started a live stream on Star Web, Zhao Xiaoqun had used her other identity to reward Shirsu with a surprise gift box. The surprise gift box was a very special reward mode on Star Web. Normal tipping on the Star Web required a very small processing fee. However, if the reward amount was placed in the surprise gift box, there would be no processing fee. However, the Star Web streamers who received the surprise gift box wouldn't know the amount of the reward and would only receive a notification of the gift box. This surprise gift box could only be opened 1 year later on the same day. Zhao Xiaoqun calculated the time. In a few days, Shirsu would be able to open the surprise gift box containing her huge compensation. Although Zhao Xiaoqun's mouth was unforgiving, she did not want her body to change after contracting a source-type life form. Instead, it would bring other troubles to others. The reason why Zhao Xiaoqun rewarded Shirsu with a surprise gift box was because the compensation involved was too high. Even if Star Web would only take a very small processing fee, Zhao Xiaoqun was not willing to waste it. In her opinion, wouldn't it be better to leave this money for other restaurants as compensation? As a Radiance 100 sequence member, Zhao Xiaoqun naturally had her own pride. Zhao Xiaoqun didn't allow others to pay for her own problems, so Zhao Xiaoqun was now extremely poor. If she had not relied on her other identity to be a big eater on Star Web, she might not even be able to afford the compensation. Of course, eating a lot of food was considered a kind of meticulous nurturing for Zhao Xiaoqun's contracted source-type life form. For some reason, Zhao Xiaoqun suddenly felt a little melancholic. Could she apply to Star Web to let Shirsu discover her other identity's surprise gift box 2 days later? Who asked Shirsu to speak so loudly to her? It was too much. Crow was walking on the purplish-black soil of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift and subconsciously killed 2 Class 3 demons. However, after killing these 2 Class 3 demons, Crow felt that something was wrong. The Radiance Federation's people were all very bad. They had taken away my Heaven and Earth Fae, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. How could I help kill 2 Class 3 demons in the Abyss Dimensional Rift in the Radiance Federation's territory? Crow was furious, but it could not say any harsh words now. Crow's face had been beaten into a pig's head. After Crow was forced out of the valley, it immediately performed a fatal rhythm and phase charge on its body's face. After beating its body's face into a pig's head, the anger in Crow's heart was only reduced by 1%. If not for the fact that Crow still needed to use this body to complete her plan, she would have smashed this body into smithereens with a single slap on the head. Come, let's reduce the majestic anger in its heart again. Crow already knew that it could not obtain the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree no matter what. Even if it rushed over from tens of thousands of miles away, it would be too late and would not have the chance to take back the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree that it had been storing in the golden disk. Apart from being angry, Crow had a kind of fear that came from the bottom of its heart. This was because such a big change had occurred in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift in the royal capital, and the Radiance Federation would definitely not ignore it. If the Radiance Federation thoroughly investigated the other controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rifts, then Lord 7th Page War's plan to let it hold back would be completely exposed. With this thought, the fear that had emerged from the bottom of Crow's heart became even greater. Immediately after, Crow steeled its heart and no longer hesitated. It made a crazy and ruthless decision. Crow now planned to activate this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, which was connected to the Abyss World's hub. It would break the protective layer outside the source-type item that it had hidden in the hub, allowing this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift to directly reach the standard of a Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Moreover, it would drip its Suzerain/Myth 2 Fey Essence blood in this body's right eye onto that hub. As long as it quickly burned this drop of Essence blood, it would be able to expand the Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift's entrance. Baidu read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 284. This way there would be a chance for a few more Class 6 demons in the Abyss world to come to this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. When Crow's main body arrived, there would be a chance to take back the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. In fact, this Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift's sea of demons and Class 6 demons that were equivalent to suzerain Feys could even attract the Radiance Federation's attention. This would give Crow a chance to sneak into the other controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rifts in the Radiance Federation. He took out the source-type items wrapped in protective layers that Crow had hidden before. This way, even if Crow failed, it would not ruin Lord 7th Page War's plan. Crow understood that this was the only way it could survive from Lord 7th Page War's hands. However, Crow had just arrived at the hub of this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift that connected to the Abyss world and had not had time to operate. It suddenly felt a trace of a suzerain Fey's aura. Crow used a drop of Essence blood as a medium and used its exclusive skill to control this body into a blood mist. Crow felt that its drop of Essence blood, which was a pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Fey, was also completely controlled by someone. This caused Crow to lose its sense of this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Crow's main body, which was tens of thousands of kilometers away, opened its eyes, which emitted monstrous flames of anger. However, when Crow suddenly saw the golden datura flower blooming on the table, his entire body was drenched in cold sweat from head to toe. Crow had already firmly remembered the trace of suzerain Fey's aura that had just emerged. The Mother of Bloodbath was in its human form in the air of this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Its red waist-length hair was blown by the strong wind like a fluttering red mist. The Mother of Bloodbath held a drop of black blood in one hand and frowned slightly. The Law Rune that the Mother of Bloodbath had comprehended to become a myth-breed Fey was the Blood Law Rune. Looking at this drop of black blood, the Mother of Bloodbath read softly. The blood of a pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Avian Fey. This blood smells really bad. It should be a dark-type Fey that likes to eat carrion like crows or vultures. However, the Mother of Bloodbath looked at the source-type item wrapped in a layer of energy protective film in its other hand. The Mother of Bloodbath's eyebrows furrowed deeply. The Mother of Bloodbath was glad that it had arrived at the hub of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift that was connected to the Abyss world. If he hadn't come back then, it would have been a disaster. However, be it the black blood of the pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Fey in his left hand or the source-type item wrapped in a layer of protective film, they were both extremely powerful. No matter what, Lin Yuan had to inform the Moon Empress. A bright and somewhat helpless smile hung on Lin Yuan's face behind the mask. Lin Yuan's hair and clothes were a little messy. These adventurers were simply too enthusiastic. If it wasn't for genius tool transformation, it would have been knocked off by some adventurer. However, after this revelry, Lin Yuan could empathize with these low-grade adventurers' survival after the calamity. Lin Yuan could not help but think. If he was still unable to sense spiritual power and obtain this creation master's ability, Morbius, which he had contracted at the age of 8, would awaken again. He was afraid that he and these low-level adventurers were in the same situation. When danger came, he still could not control his own fate. However, after experiencing this kind of empathizing, Lin Yuan suddenly understood the responsibility of being an expert. The responsibility of such an expert was not to restrain but to casually raise a hand when he had the ability to shield one side from the storm. Long Tao took Zhao Xiaochun, Fang Duo, and Qin Hongfeng to say goodbye to Lin Yuan, and then they set off. Long Tao planned to report Qin Hongfeng as the 5th member of the Dragon Gate Guild Club's tournament team according to the previous plan. When Qin Hongfeng left, he also specially greeted Lin Yuan and gave him a thumbs up. If Qin Hongfeng had still regarded Black as his opponent before, after experiencing this Demon Sea battle, he had already placed Black in the same position as Fang Duo and Zhao Xiaochun. Qin Hongfeng no longer regarded Black as his opponent but as a goal that he looked up to and wanted to pursue. Shi Su patted Lin Yuan's shoulder and said, "The tournament will start in 3 days. There are still 3 days before the tournament. I should head back. I still have to live stream on Star Web for the next 2 days." At this point, Shi Su let out a sigh. The higher the grade of the Spirit Chi professional, the more resources they required. Even if Shi Su was a Radiance 100 and had the Radiance Federation's official resources, how could he have enough resources to upgrade his phase grade and quality? When Lin Yuan heard Shi Su's sigh and recalled the conversation between Zhao Xiaochun and Shi Su, he could not help but ask, "Brother Shi, are there any resources that are in short supply?" Shi Su hurriedly replied, "That's right. Stop. Don't call me Brother Shi. Call me Brother Su. Don't you think it's weird to call me Brother Shi?" Lin Yuan looked at Shi Su in surprise and could not help but think that Shi Su was indeed a man who could fight evenly with Zhao Xiaochun. Shi Su's way of thinking was not something an ordinary person could possess. "All right, Brother Su." When Shi Su heard Lin Yuan's words, his smile turned into the shape of a cornflower. However, Shi Su immediately became melancholic again. "I don't lack resources, but there are too few defense-type Thunder-type Fays that are more suitable for a traditional defense type like me." As Shi Su spoke, he thought of the 5 chain restaurants that had closed down and felt his eyes moisten again. Lin Yuan nodded and did not speak again. This was because Lin Yuan did not have a defense-type Thunder-type Fey that was suitable for Shi Su to walk the traditional defense-type path. At that time, Shi Su had helped him block that blow, and Lin Yuan remembered it in his heart, just like this defense-type Thunder-type Fey. Not long after Shi Su left, the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice rang in Lin Yuan's ears. When Lin Yuan lowered his head, he found that the mother of Bloodbath had returned at some point and was lying on the emerald leaf-shaped diamond Fey storage box. After listening to the mother of Bloodbath's discovery at the hub that connected to the Abyss world, Lin Yuan immediately realized the seriousness of the problem. After leaving this controlled Class 3 Abyss dimensional rift with the mother of Bloodbath, Lin Yuan immediately contacted his master, the Moon Empress. He wanted to read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Clawbook House for free. Chapter 285. It was close to noon, and the autumn breeze was chilly. However, even though it was late autumn, the bright and beautiful sunlight was still warm. The Moon Empress was in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace. She was hugging a snow-white rabbit that didn't have a trace of mixed fur and looked no different from ordinary rabbits. At the same time, she instructed the 4 tea attendants, Kai Cha and Shi Cha, to transplant the lotus flowers in the inner palace's lotus pond. The pure white rabbit was eating the carrot in its arms with a crunch 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 sound, appearing to be very satisfied. Under the Moon Empress' meticulous nurturing, half of the dozens of lotus flowers in the inner palace's lotus pond had entered a dormant state. Once these lotus flowers recovered from their dormancy, they would be able to comprehend the willpower rune and become suzerain. Although half of the lotus flowers in the lotus pond had entered a dormant state, the lotus pond seemed to be more prosperous. As compared to before, the lotus pond seemed to be more prosperous. This was because the remaining dozen lotus flowers that hadn't entered a dormant state were still at Diamond X/Legend. After absorbing the medicinal liquid's energy, these lotus fays that hadn't entered a dormant state had become more luxuriant, and the lotus flowers that bloomed were also more beautiful. However, these luxuriant and brightly bloomed Diamond X/Legend lotus flowers were no longer qualified to stay in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace's lotus pond. From now on, these Diamond X/Legend lotus fays would be moved from the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace's lotus pond to the Radiant Moon Palace's outer gardens pond. At that moment, the Moon Empress cell phone, which usually didn't ring even once in a few months, suddenly rang. When the Moon Empress took a look, she immediately revealed a gentle smile. However, not long after picking up the phone, although the Moon Empress' tone was gentle and had indescribable concern, her eyes suddenly emitted a terrifying pressure. This terrifying pressure made those Diamond X/Legend Lotus Fays, which were originally swaying their flowers and praying to be able to stay in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace's lotus pond again, to the point that they all became listless in fear. At the same time, Kai-Cha and Shi-Cha also revealed horrified expressions. Kai-Cha and Shi-Cha weren't surprised by the Moon Empress aura, but they didn't know why she was so angry. After hanging up the phone, the Moon Empress walked out of the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace. The Moon Empress stood in the corridor outside the Radiant Moon Palace and looked at the dazzling noon sun as she caressed the pure white bunny in her arms. Our generation has restrained our edge for so many years, yet there are actually people who dare to look down on the Radiance Federation and harbor evil thoughts. When the pure white bunny in the Moon Empress' arms heard the Moon Empress' words, its eyes suddenly surged with an extremely luxurious purple color. The noon sun in the sky seemed to have completely darkened for a moment. At that moment, many people in the Radiance Federation suddenly felt that it was still noon. Why did it feel like it had suddenly become a long night with only a bright moon hanging in the sky? The pure white rabbit's action of gnawing on the carrot slowed down, and its two long ears rubbed against the Moon Empress' palm as though it was comforting the Moon Empress and asking her not to be angry. A gust of autumn wind fluttered the corner of the Moon Empress's moon-colored robe and wrinkled the clear pool beneath the long corridor. It also blew a lock of hair from the Moon Empress' forehead to her neck. All of a sudden, a chuckle blended into the wind. When the wind blows, it will wrinkle the spring water. However, Emperor class and myth breeds aren't qualified to wrinkle the spring water. After Lin Yuan explained the situation to his master, the Moon Empress, he didn't have to worry anymore. Lin Yuan knew that his current ability wasn't enough to worry so much and think so much. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yuan started to check on his gains from the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift for the past month. Lin Yuan immediately looked for a nearby guest house. When Lin Yuan came out of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, he had already taken off the silver mask that Genius had transformed into. He had regained his Class 2 Creation Master status. Genius had also transformed into a two-tailed white kitten and was standing on Lin Yuan's shoulder. While walking, Genius used its soft, long and white face to rub against Lin Yuan's cheek intimately. When Lin Yuan saw it, he immediately carried Genius in his arms and gently scratched Genius' chin. Genius immediately raised its head and used its big blue eyes to look at Lin Yuan while letting out a comfortable gulp, gulp sound. Lin Yuan couldn't help but think, Genius, this little thing, is really getting more and more clingy. An 18-year-old sunny youth with a natural aura was wearing white and blue spirit chi clothes, making him look abnormally pleasing to the eyes. Moreover, this sunny youth was hugging a petite and cute white kitten. After Lin Yuan checked into the guest house, he was immediately warmly received by the grandpa and grandma who ran the guest house. During lunch, they gave Lin Yuan an extra bowl of rice and persuaded him to eat 4 more pieces of ribs before allowing him to return to the guest house's room. Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't reject such friendly and enthusiastic treatment, but it made Lin Yuan's stomach suffer. Lin Yuan suddenly realized that this meal seemed to be the only meal that he had eaten in this life. After returning to his room in the guest house, Lin Yuan washed up and washed off the dust from the training. This training had caused Lin Yuan's hands to be stained with plenty of blood, but it didn't make Lin Yuan cruel. Instead, it allowed Lin Yuan to understand how to measure a person's heart and whether they were good or evil in this great world. He had to measure whether he should treat others like a spring breeze or treat them as cold as frost. Everything was just a ruler placed horizontally in one's heart. In the past, Lin Yuan only had this ruler, but he didn't draw a scale on it. But now, Lin Yuan had drawn a scale on this ruler in his heart. This scale was Lin Yuan's most important gain over the past month, apart from having a better grasp of the source sand. The gains from heaven and earth phase were just progress, but the progress of the mind was called growth. After washing up, Lin Yuan logged into the star web and contacted Tian Ningning. Just as Lin Yuan was about to contact Tian Ningning, he realized that the number of messages that Tian Ningning had sent him was already 999 plus. Lin Yuan felt even more apologetic in his heart. Tian Ningning had staked everything on this and become his exclusive reporter. Furthermore, Tian Ningning had shown an extremely sincere attitude back then and had immediately signed a 10-year contract. According to the contents of the contract that Tian Ningning had drafted, during the 10-year period, Tian Ningning had to fulfill the obligations of the travel contract perfectly. However, Lin Yuan had the right to stop the contract at any time. Tian Ningning was betting on her career as a star web columnist as a show of sincerity. Chapter 286. Lin Yuan clicked on all the messages that Tian Ningning had sent and carefully read them from beginning to end. Then Lin Yuan sent all the information that he had obtained from Star Web's exclusive achievement, his application to join the Radiance 100 sequence, and everything that had happened in the past month or so. He did not need Tian Ningning to ask him one by one. Lin Yuan did not hide the Scarlet Flame Vortex in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift and the Demon Tide that had suddenly arrived due to the Flame Vortex. This was because there were many adventurers who had experienced this incident at that time. Apart from the Demon Tide, the moment the Scarlet Flame Vortex vanished, the adventurers at the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's entrance had already left the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Therefore this matter could not be concealed even if he wanted to. Lin Yuan saw that there were already relevant reports on Star Web, but these reports were not comprehensive enough. After all, those adventurers who had been staying at the entrance did not know what had happened. Long Tao, Shisu, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duo, these Radiance 100 sequence members also had their own exclusive reporters. Long Tao, Shisu, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duo's exclusive reporters would ask about this matter. Long Tao, Shisu, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duo would definitely tell him everything. As Lin Yuan's exclusive reporter, Lin Yuan naturally would not let her lose this opportunity to get first-hand information. Finally, Lin Yuan also expressed his apology to Tian Ningning in the last message. Tian Ningning was currently staring at Black's profile picture on Star Web in a daze. She had not had a good time for the past month. As Black's exclusive reporter, she did not know about the news that Black had obtained the Celestial Stairway's exclusive achievement. The Radiance Sacred Hall had announced the big news that Black was going to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection, and the world knew about it. However, Tian Ningning herself did not know at all. Tian Ningning had also lost contact with Black. The Star Web officials had also given Tian Ningning a lot of pressure. As an exclusive reporter, she did not even send an article related to the person she was reporting on. However, Tian Ningning had always insisted on her contract with Lin Yuan and was not like other exclusive reporters. When she could not contact the person she was reporting on, she carried out false reports without any substantial content to share the Star Web's pressure on her. For some reason, Tian Ningning's heart, which was filled with courage and passion, felt a little bitter. Tian Ningning looked at Black's profile picture. She had a lot of questions but she didn't know what to ask first. An unfamiliar feeling lingered in Tian Ningning's heart, tangling with the hot blood from before. It actually made Tian Ningning's heart ache a little. But in the end, just as Tian Ningning was about to carry out the reporter's routine questioning. At this time, Tian Ningning suddenly noticed that there was a new message notification on Black's profile picture that she had been staring at and setting special attention to. Tian Ningning clicked on Black's profile picture and received a long message. When Tian Ningning read the news, the bitterness in her heart was swept away, and her blood began to boil again. Because this was a very detailed message, it had already described in detail the story of what happened to Black during this period of time. The content of the story was clear and organized. Occasionally, some of the content had the unique humor of a young man. However, when Tian Ningning saw the Sea of Demons, her heart skipped a beat. No matter how detailed the story was, it was just a summary, but under the summary, there was a hidden crisis and a moment of life and death. After reading the content for a long time, Tian Ningning still felt a lingering fear in her heart. However, Tian Ningning immediately knew how to start writing the report on Black that had been piling up previously. But when Tian Ningning saw Black's last message with an apologetic tone, the bitterness in Tian Ningning's heart that had dissipated suddenly turned into salty tears. A young man had just resisted the Sea of Demons in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Once again he was blessed with radiance. But such a young hero had actually thought of her, a reporter, after resisting the Sea of Demons. She was just an insignificant person to that silver-masked youth. Tian Ningning felt a sense of respect. Sometimes an apology might be light, but it was filled with sincerity. She carefully read Black's last message for a long time. Tian Ningning's face, which was still wet with salty tears, suddenly had a big smile that came from the bottom of her heart. Tian Ningning looked at the chat box with Black in front of her, and the smile on her face became brighter. Tian Ningning, thanks for your hard work, little hero. Good luck. Then Tian Ningning added a cute emoji at the end. After that, Tian Ningning logged off the Star Web. She was no longer in a daze as she had been before. Now she had become an energetic young lady. Tian Ningning immediately contacted Long Tao, Shisu, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duo's exclusive reporters. For a major event like this where a few important figures were interspersed, the exclusive reporters would cooperate to report. Long Tao, Shi Su, Zhao Xiaochun, and Fang Duo were all Radiance 100 sequence members, and their exclusive reporters would not accept normal cooperation reports. However, when Black obtained the Star Web's exclusive achievement and the qualifications to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition, Black's eyes lit up. Chapter 287. Finally, when the Demon Sea was completely wiped out, Red Thorn had no choice but to give up a portion of the Class 4 demon flesh that it was unable to digest. These Class 4 demon flesh, which was equivalent to a Platinum Fey, contained withering and burning characteristics. Even if Red Thorn's or Tet devoured them, it would not be able to withstand it. At that time, Red Thorn had only used the Ramets as a container to store the Class 4 demon flesh to prevent it from being devoured by the Class 3 demon, which would then become a threat on the battlefield. Red Thorn used the Ramets to offer the flesh energy that it could absorb to itself. A large number of Ramets instantly withered, and the massive flesh energy was transferred to the Ortet's body through its roots. Such a massive amount of flesh energy made Red Thorn enter a dormant state. At that moment, Lin Yuan could feel the mouth of Relinquish emitting a rumbling sound that sounded like a furnace's operation. Moreover, the 12 digestive cavities around the mouth of Relinquish that were blooming with beautiful rose-shaped red flowers were also mobilizing the stored digestive juices. The strong acidic digestive juices flowed into the mouth of Relinquish, allowing the mouth of Relinquish's digestive ability to reach the maximum. Even though Lin Yuan was a distance away from the mouth of Relinquish, he could feel the mouth of Relinquish constantly emitting a massive amount of flesh energy. Red Thorn was rapidly digesting the massive flesh energy in its body and transforming it into its own strength. Lin Yuan believed that after this week of hibernation, Red Thorn would be able to reach Bronze X afterward. As long as Red Thorn's quality evolved from epic to legend, Lin Yuan would be able to evolve it into a fantasy breed. Once Red Thorn became a fantasy breed, Lin Yuan's combat ability would be greatly enhanced. However, Lin Yuan had yet to decide which of the 2 willpower runes in his spiritual spatial zone should he fuse with Red Thorn. These 2 willpower runes were extremely suitable for Red Thorn. When a willpower rune fused with a Fey and became a fantasy breed, it would allow the Fey to undergo a brand new metamorphosis. Therefore, different willpower runes would allow the Fey's future path to undergo a world of difference. Therefore, such matters could not be careless. However, it was still a little early for Lin Yuan to think about this problem. This was because it wasn't easy for Red Thorn to advance from Bronze/Epic to Legend. Since Red Thorn could only rely on devouring the flesh and blood energy contained within flesh and blood to increase its rank and quality, Red Thorn could only rely on devouring the flesh and blood energy contained within flesh and blood. Therefore, Red Thorn's current path was almost the same as other Spirit Chi professionals' way of enhancing Feys. Through nurturing Red Thorn, Lin Yuan also understood how difficult it was for other Spirit Chi professionals to nurture Feys and improve their quality. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh when he sensed Red Thorn's current state. Right now, Red Thorn's body had yet to digest the massive amount of flesh and blood energy. Clearly, it was still unable to promote Red Thorn from epic to legendary. He could sense that there was a thick barrier between Red Thorn's epic and legend quality. If he wanted to rely on Red Thorn's flesh energy that had yet to be completely consumed, it would be completely insufficient to break through that barrier. It seemed like if Red Thorn wanted to evolve from epic to legend at Bronze X, Lin Yuan would have to think of another way. The upgrade of Red Thorn's quality should be the biggest problem in nurturing his Feys. However, Lin Yuan was not willing to waste a part of his Fey's potential like other Spirit Chi professionals and evolve Red Thorn to Silver before finding a way to break through from epic to legend. In Lin Yuan's opinion, since it was something he could do, he had to do his best no matter how difficult it was. When Red Thorn had entered its dormant state, the Gold Eye/Legend Acid Corrosion Queen Bee had been expelled from the mouth of Relinquish by Red Thorn. Therefore, the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee could only live next to Red Thorn in the digestive cavity with the huge red rose-shaped flower. The Acid Corrosion Queen Bee pitifully crawled out of Red Thorn's huge, bewitching rose-shaped flower's digestive cavity and landed on Lin Yuan's palm. Lin Yuan looked at the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee's carefully fawning expression and found that it was actually the same as when the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee was fawning on Red Thorn. However, this fawning seemed to have some purpose. The Acid Corrosion Queen Bee had been Red Thorn's bootlicker during this period. However, Red Thorn had always been indifferent to the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee. Red Thorn had always been very dependent on Lin Yuan and treated him as its everything. Therefore, after the acid corrosion queen bee understood this, it immediately used the circuitous tactic of a bootlicker and repeatedly licked. By fawning on Lin Yuan, it made Red Thorn have a good impression of it. This was a bit like a person chasing his goddess, but his goddess ignored him, so he found ways to please the goddess's parents and then get the goddess's favor. At that moment, the sleeping Red Thorn seemed to sense something. It wrapped the smooth vine without any thorns around Lin Yuan's wrist. Then, the vine shook and pulled the acid corrosion queen bee out of Lin Yuan's palm. The acid corrosion queen bee, the bootlicker, had never expected that the goddess it wanted to please was actually a daddy complex. Lin Yuan stored the acid corrosion queen bee and the sleeping Red Thorn into the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box on his chest. Then he entered the spirit lock spatial zone and prepared to check on the heaven and earth phase, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree and the twin red pagoda that he had accidentally obtained during this training. After Lin Yuan entered the spirit lock spatial zone, he looked at the scene inside. He felt that his spirit lock spatial zone's 80 square meter area was really too small. Especially after Lin Yuan had fully used the area inside the spirit lock spatial zone, the spirit lock spatial zone seemed abnormally crowded. Lin Yuan had a lot of things to do in the spirit lock spatial zone this time. After more than a month, the rare wood that Lin Yuan had placed on the two huge parasol wood shells had completely become jade textured. Therefore, Lin Yuan wanted to replace these completely jade textured rare wood with a new batch. These completely jade textured rare wood were all of the precious quality that Lin Yuan had carefully selected at that time. Under the extremely strong spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone, these completely jade textured rare wood flowed with various colored halos, which was very beautiful. Lin Yuan looked at these 5 kinds of completely jade-textured rare wood, be it scented rosewood, chicken wing wood, ebony, green elm, or gold-threaded nanmo. Any one of these 5 kinds of completely jade-textured rare wood would cause those affluent families to frantically fight for it on the market. Moreover, Lin Yuan's completely jade-textured wood was still very large and very regular. Lin Yuan's completely jade-textured wood was the most suitable to be used as a relief sculpture, furniture, or sculpture. If everyone has time to chat in the comments section, you can clock in every day. End of this chapter. Chapter 288. Lin Yuan did not appreciate these 5 types of completely jade-textured precious woods. He directly stored these 5 types of completely jade-textured precious wood into the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box that he used as cufflinks. These completely jade-textured precious woods were the foundation for Lin Yuan to build his faction. He was going to rely on these foundations to exchange for a large number of resources to accumulate for the sky city he would build on the fantasy breed floating island Whale's Back. He placed a new batch of rare wood on the 2 huge jade-textured platyphyllum wood shelves. In another month or so, there would be a large batch of new completely jade-textured precious woods that would mature. However, what surprised Lin Yuan the most were these 2 completely jade-textured parasol wood shelves carved with phoenix totems. The 2 wudong wood shelves carved with phoenix totems had turned into a magnificent red color at this time. However, this red was not as transparent as a red crystal. Instead, it was the color of a red jade with a lustrous white background. The phoenix feathers carved on the shelves were flowing with a halo under the rich and pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone, making the huge parasol wood shelves look very exquisite. After Lin Yuan placed this new batch of precious woods, he checked the 100 silk brocade pearls that he had placed in the spirit lock spatial zone. These 100 silk brocade pearls had all transformed into flower brocade pearls through the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone in the past month or so. The silk brocade pearls looked like succulent plants composed of emerald green pearl-like leaves. They had a jelly-like texture to the touch. However, if there was a wound on the hand and accidentally touched the dew secreted by the silk brocade pearls, one would probably have to endure the pain of a blunt knife cutting the flesh. The small green beads on the silk brocade pearls had completely turned into a light pink. The flower brocade pearls looked no different from the silk brocade pearls, but the color of the round granular leaves had changed wonderfully. The original green leaves of the silk brocade pearls looked very plain. Now that the silk brocade pearls had transformed into flower brocade pearls, the different shades of pink on the leaves actually looked like a small fleshy lotus flower. The true value of these flower brocade pearls did not lie in how beautiful they looked. It was because every flower brocade pearl in the hands of a creation master would increase the success rate of concocting the spirit fluid. Lin Yuan planned to hang this batch of mature flower brocade pearls in his purchase with no loss store for the next few days. He stored the 100 flower brocade pearls into the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. Then he replaced it with 100 new Jinshang beads and placed them in their original positions. Next, he allowed these 100 brocade pearls to continue to mutate into flower brocade pearls. After that, he checked the floating island whale's current state. The two aquamarine elemental shellfish and celestine elemental shellfish absorbed the massive and pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone and constantly spat out elemental pearls that contained pure water elements and air elements. Every time these elemental pearls gathered to a certain extent at the side of the crystal eggshell where the floating island whale was being nurtured, the elemental pearls would gather to a certain degree. The crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale would absorb the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone, as well as the elemental pearls that contain pure water and air elements. Lin Yuan placed his palm on the crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale. The lonely soul in the crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale instantly sensed Lin Yuan's arrival and immediately came over. Lin Yuan only felt that his palm seemed to be firmly attached to a hand through the crystal eggshell. Feeling the floating island whale's attachment to him, Lin Yuan revealed a warm smile on his face. Then, like before, Lin Yuan cut a hole in his palm and placed his palm on the crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale. He used blood to strengthen the connection with the floating island whale. This was a necessary process when nurturing the island whale. Phase like the floating island whale could only deepen the bloodline connection again and again. When the floating island whale hatched, it would form a contract with the spirit chi professional that was connected to it by bloodline. Lin Yuan looked at the two aquamarine elemental shellfish and celestine elemental shellfish and pondered slightly. After feeling the floating island whale's state of devouring spirit chi, Lin Yuan found that the two aquamarine elemental shellfish and celestine elemental shellfish could fully support the frequency at which the floating island whale absorbed the spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. If one more aquamarine elemental shellfish and celestine elemental shellfish were added, elemental pearls would probably overflow. Even if the floating island whale could absorb spiritual power like a whale, the efficiency of this absorption was limited after all. The huge amount of pure energy in the spirit lock spatial zone allowed the aquamarine elemental shellfish and celestine elemental shellfish to unleash their biological source abilities to the fullest. These were the water elemental pearls and the air elemental pearls that contained pure elemental energy that were hard to find outside. In Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone, the aquamarine elemental shellfish and celestine elemental shellfish quickly spat them out like an assembly line. Then Lin Yuan used his hand to grab the life-form sacrificial fire that was like a burning emerald in midair. After this life-form sacrificial fire was fully matured, it would not grow again. If the red pagoda was a heaven and earth fae, when the red pagoda gave birth to the life-form sacrificial fire, it had already withered. The life-form sacrificial fire was just a kind of spiritual ingredient that was produced by the red pagoda. Lin Yuan carefully stored this life-form sacrificial fire in a brocade box carved from jade. Then he placed this brocade box carved from jade in the spirit lock spatial zone on the table that he usually used to nurture phase. In Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone, there were a total of 2 items on the table that he used to nurture phase. The first item was the crab stone that the bronze sheer pincers crab had given to Lin Yuan after it had been healed when he had participated in the Creation Master exam. This crab stone was a very ordinary spiritual ingredient that could be bought for less than 1 radiance dollar. However, this crab stone was the first gift of gratitude that Lin Yuan had received from a fae after becoming a Creation Master. Lin Yuan would never forget the shock that the sheer pincers crab had stupidly spat out bubbles and cut off the crab stone that it usually protected with its life to give to him. It was this crab stone that had allowed Lin Yuan to treat phase with a heart that cherished life on the path of becoming a Creation Master. The other item on the table was a very ordinary ice mist grass. This very ordinary ice mist grass had been placed on the table in the spirit lock spatial zone by Lin Yuan over a month ago. When looking at this ice mist grass, Lin Yuan felt as though he had seen through a month's time and saw the pure eyes of that girl called Little Zao. It was this ice mist grass that Lin Yuan would forever remember. He had to do his best to cherish the grateful heart of others. He had to do his best to cherish the grateful heart of others. End of this chapter. Chapter 289. But now there was a third item on the table. The third item was the life-form sacrificial fire that Lin Yuan had just placed on the table. To him, this life-form sacrificial fire was equivalent to a redemption for a plant phase life. This was because the life-form sacrificial fire itself was equivalent to a plant-type phase second life. As for the main flower of the twin red pagoda, which was burning with a scarlet flame and wrapped around a ball of immature life-form sacrificial fire? He did not intend to care about it and just placed it in a corner of the spirit lock spatial zone. The twin red pagoda's main flower had completely recovered from the massive and pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. However, if he wanted to nurture the twin red pagoda's main flower and nurture another life-form sacrificial fire, he would need a massive amount of fire elements. He could not get that huge amount of pure fire elemental energy for the twin red pagoda's main flower now. However, when faced with this massive amount of pure fire elemental energy, Lin Yuan suddenly had an idea and thought of the elemental shellfish. If he had another elemental shellfish, he could induce the elemental shellfish to mutate and evolve it into a scorching elemental shellfish. The scorching elemental shellfish was similar to the celestine elemental shellfish and the aquamarine elemental shellfish. However, the elemental pearls spat out by the scorching elemental shellfish contained fire elements. The scorching elemental shellfish was absorbing large amounts of pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. The elemental pearls that it spat out that contained pure fire elements could be supplied to the twin red pagoda's main flower to nurture the life-form sacrificial fire. However, the elemental shellfish were simply too rare. Previously, when he had been enhancing the 3 spirit spring lilies, one of them had mutated into a yellow spring lily. Moreover, Gao Feng happened to want this bronze/epic yellow spring lily very much. He might not necessarily be able to exchange a bronze/epic yellow spring lily for 4 young elemental shellfish. Therefore, if Lin Yuan wanted to obtain a rare treasure like the elemental shellfish again, he would really need a suitable opportunity. His most important harvest this time was the Dark Federation spatial equipment, the golden metal disc and the heaven and earth fae, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Lin Yuan first summoned the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree from the golden metal disc. He then filled the golden metal disc with mid-grade energy ores and placed it at the bottom of the spirit pool. When he saw the golden disc at the bottom of the spirit pool, he felt relaxed. This way he would no longer need to come to the spirit lock spatial zone every few days and work hard for a few hours to continuously gather energy ores. This golden metal disc was equivalent to a platinum phase storage box filled with energy ores. It was enough for the spirit lock spatial zone to consume for close to a month. However, Lin Yuan's first tool in the spirit lock spatial zone, the wind speed rapid antelope, would be useless. He looked at the wind speed rapid antelope that was running around happily in the spirit lock spatial zone, continuously touching the cinnabar sweet osmanthus and the huge frame carved from parasol wood. Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes and suddenly had a dangerous thought. The wind speed rapid antelope seemed to have sensed something and ran over to Lin Yuan. It used its little head to rub against Lin Yuan's hand in a very flattering manner. He rubbed the wind speed rapid antelope's little head and sighed. In any case, he was already used to raising the wind speed swift spirit, so he might as well raise it first. This wind speed rapid antelope did not disappoint him. Now, the wind speed rapid antelope's quality had risen from excellent to perfect. Among Lin Yuan's fays, this wind speed rapid antelope's quality was the lowest. However, it was not bad for the wind speed rapid antelope to be a small butler in this spirit lock spatial zone and bring a touch of life to it. Lin Yuan looked at the summoned phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. The golden leaves of the summoned phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree seemed to emit a brilliant golden light. The golden light all over the tree flowed in the bird's nest made of branches and leaves. It was as if the bird's nest was pregnant with an indescribable beauty. Lin Yuan picked up the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree and planted it on the pure land of bliss in the spirit lock spatial zone. The previous owner of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree had tried his best to let the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree extract the energy of the twin red pagoda's main flower. In fact, it was mainly to let the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree extract the huge amount of pure spirit chi contained in the twin red pagoda's main flower. The phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was a kind of heaven and earth fae with extremely high requirements for the purity and content of spiritual power. There was no place more suitable for the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree to grow than the pure land of bliss in the spirit lock spatial zone. The phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was also a big consumer of spiritual power in Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone. However, with the golden metal disc, Lin Yuan did not have to worry about the consumption of energy ores at all. As for the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, it needed to consume strange flames to grow. This made Lin Yuan understand that in the future, he might as well use the flower brocade pearls to exchange for those strange flames produced in the abyss dimensional rifts in his purchase with no loss store. The price of any strange flame was very expensive. However, it was not impossible to buy some low-grade strange flames in the market. Some of the better strange flames, such as the mid-grade strange flames produced in the Class 2 Abyss Dimensional Rifts, were kept by some lifestyle class spirit chi professionals like treasures and were difficult to circulate in the market. However, Lin Yuan believed that with the flower brocade pearls that could make creation masters crazy, everything would not be a problem. These creation masters who wanted to exchange for the flower brocade pearls would definitely find ways to get the strange flames from the lifestyle class spirit chi professionals who had asked for his help. They would use them to exchange for the flower brocade pearls in his purchase with no loss store. As for strange flames like the life-form sacrificial fire, as long as Lin Yuan was not stupid, he would definitely not use it to feed the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Even if the life-form sacrificial fire was of great benefit to the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, it could not be replaced by a large number of other strange flames. Lin Yuan turned his head and found that Chimey was lying on the platinum celery vine. It had fallen asleep and was pecking at its leaves. It turned out that Chimey, this little sloth, had fallen asleep during the meal. Lin Yuan was a little confused. He had not summoned Chimey to help him when he was fighting in the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Why was Chimey so tired during this period? Lin Yuan carefully picked up Chimey, which had fallen asleep on the celery vine's leaves. He placed it in the bird's nest formed by the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branches and leaves. Chimey, who was in a daze, immediately chirped a few times in comfort. The halo flowing on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's golden leaves slowly gathered toward the bird's nest formed by the branches and leaves. Finally, these golden halos landed on Chimey's body as though they were fused into it. It made Chimey look particularly exquisite and elegant. Lin Yuan really could not understand why Chimey was so tired. Seeing that there was nothing else to pack in the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan simply left. Just after Lin Yuan left the spirit lock spatial zone, Chimey chirped as though it was sitting in a dream. In the dream, Chimey discovered that it had become a human and held a solo concert surrounded by all of Star Web's fans. However, just as it was singing, Chimey suddenly dreamed that Lin Yuan had gone on stage and presented it with a bouquet of flowers. Chimey was suddenly like a child who had been caught by his parents secretly playing with his phone while doing homework and was woken up in shock. After waking up in shock, Chimey suddenly found itself sleeping in a warm and soft golden tree nest. Chimey immediately jumped around on the golden tree nest in surprise and thought to itself, Lin Yuan bought me a new nest. Lin Yuan bought me a new nest. Lin Yuan treats me so well. With that thought in mind, Chimey fell into deep thought. Would Lin Yuan be angry if I told him the truth? It's all Genius' fault for telling me something about a surprise gift box on Star Web. I put all the money I earned from my live streaming room into the surprise gift box and gave it to Lin Yuan's Star Web store. After that year, will Lin Yuan blame me if he finds out after receiving the surprise gift box? Second chapter, end of this chapter. Chapter 290. Not only did puberty boys and girls have worries, but even puberty birds were the same. With worries they were melancholy and happy. The thoughts of puberty birds were like the silver candle painted on the cold autumn wind, the light and small fan flutters the fireflies. The light and small fan had the intention, but the fireflies were indeed a fleeting moment in February, and the wind was against it. Lin Yuan sorted out the material production and the harvest from the training in the spirit lock spatial zone for this month. He knew what he had to do next. At that moment Lin Yuan heard a knock on the door. Lin Yuan was a little curious. Who would knock on his door at this time? After Lin Yuan opened the door, he found the Mother of Bloodbath in its human form standing at the door. At that moment, the Mother of Bloodbath's hair color had turned black, and the red crystal-like leather armor on its body was covered with a layer of crimson robe. As a suzerain/myth 2 Fae, the Mother of Bloodbath's human form completely retained the style of its main body. The ability to change hair color was just a piece of cake for a suzerain/myth 2 Fae. However, the Mother of Bloodbath's eyes were still the same as before, still like red crystals. However, the Mother of Bloodbath's current appearance was still a little strange except for its eyes. The rest looked roughly no different from an ordinary human spirit chi professional. After the Mother of Bloodbath saw Lin Yuan, a trace of a smile appeared on its cold face, and it handed over a craft paper bag. Lin Yuan opened the craft paper bag and saw 2 peeled roasted sweet potatoes with syrup flowing out of the surface from the roasting. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the Mother of Bloodbath say, I also booked a room next to yours. I also booked a room next to yours. It's snowing outside and I went out for a walk just now. I found that the roasted sweet potatoes are quite delicious. Lin Yuan held the hot roasted sweet potatoes in the craft paper bag. He could not help but recall that Chu Xi clearly loved to eat roasted sweet potatoes when she was young, but every time he bought them for her, she pretended not to like them and insisted that he take a bite first. After the mother of Bloodbath delivered the roasted sweet potatoes to Lin Yuan, it was ready to leave. Eat them while they're hot. They won't taste good when they're cold. In order to increase its credibility, the mother of Bloodbath added solemnly, I tried them just now. They're not delicious when they're cold. Lin Yuan had always felt that the mother of Bloodbath was cold and unkind. However, now that the mother of Bloodbath had transformed into a human, it wanted to go out for a walk when it saw that it was snowing. It even curiously tasted the roasted sweet potatoes. It was clear that the mother of Bloodbath truly loved this world and life in its heart. After saying that, the mother of Bloodbath was about to help Lin Yuan close the door when it heard him speak. Mother of Bloodbath, what do you like to eat? I'll take you to eat some human delicacies tonight. The mother of Bloodbath's eyebrows were tinged with a hint of joy. I love to eat all birds. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nearly choked on his saliva and coughed. He had almost forgotten that the mother of Bloodbath did not know much about human delicacies. The mother of Bloodbath's body was a kind of tarantula that usually loved to prey on bird-type fays. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before replying. Then let's go eat chicken stewed with mushrooms, stewed goose in an iron pot, and buy some fried chicken tonight? The mother of Bloodbath's excitement intensified. After closing the door, the mother of Bloodbath was about to return to its room, but its ears twitched, and the excitement on its eyebrows instantly disappeared. As a suzerain/myth 2 fae, the mother of Bloodbath's hearing was naturally extraordinary. The mother of Bloodbath only heard, Old man, give Aranire a call later and tell her to be reserved. She can't take the initiative to knock on a boy's door. Got it, old woman? Do you have anything else to say to Aranire? Of course, tell Aranire that girls shouldn't always give themselves nicknames. Li Aranai sounds better than Li Duomi. However, Aranire doesn't have to worry. At the very least, she didn't give herself a nickname like the mother of Bloodbath. Young people nowadays. How gaudy. The mother of Bloodbath could not take it anymore and slammed its door. However, what the mother of Bloodbath heard next made it feel like it was about to split apart. That's right, old man, tell Aranire to be more ladylike in the future. Don't be so rude. Boys treat you to a meal and you're happy as if you've won 5 million. The mother of Bloodbath suddenly felt that the human brain circuit was somewhat abnormal. Shouldn't one be happy when hearing chicken stewed with mushrooms, stewed goose in an iron pot, and fried chicken drumsticks? What kind of weird things are humans thinking about in their brains? Lin Yuan ate the roasted sweet potato in his hand. As he ate, he took out his cell phone and dialed Chu Xi's number. When the call connected, Lin Yuan heard that Chu Xi's environment was very noisy. However, after listening carefully, Chu Xi should be in combat class at this time. Lin Yuan, I've called you several times this month, but you never had a signal. Chu Xi was very happy when she received Lin Yuan's call, but there was a little complaint in her tone. This small complaint included her concern for Lin Yuan as his younger sister for the past month. Chu Xi, I went to the Dimensional Rift to train this month. There's no signal in the Dimensional Rift. I heard from Auntie Cold Moon. Auntie Cold Moon? That's right. Auntie Cold Moon is very good to me. I'll be participating in the Redbud Hundreds test as a seeded contestant in a few months. Auntie Cold Moon said that she'll take me out for a few months to increase my strength during the new year. When Lin Yuan heard that it was Cold Moon who would take Chu Xi to train, he was naturally very relieved. However, when he thought that Chu Xi would be going out to train during the new year and would not be spending the new year with him, Lin Yuan was slightly absent-minded. In the past dozen years, it seemed that this year was the first time that he did not spend the new year with Chu Xi. Chu Xi's age was the best time to increase her strength. As Chu Xi's biological brother, Lin Yuan naturally hoped that she would become stronger. Although Lin Yuan was confident that he could be Chu Xi's safe haven, the stability of the safe haven and Chu Xi's progress did not conflict. Brother, I can't spend the new year with you this year, but we'll all drink the fathead fish head soup during the new year. Lin Yuan's heart warmed when he heard that. The dishes on the table would always change every new year, but the one thing that did not change every year was a bowl of fathead fish head soup. Lin Yuan hung up the phone and suddenly had a feeling that his younger sister had grown up and was no longer relying on him. However, as an older brother he was like an old father. The more the younger sister wanted to go out, the more the older brother had to plan for her. At that moment, Lin Yuan's Iron Bucket Younger Sister Nurturing Plan had automatically updated to Iron Bucket Younger Sister Nurturing Plan. Today's third update, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 291. Lin Yuan stood by the window of his room in the guest house and looked at the scattered snowflakes outside. The royal capital did not see much snow in a year. Lin Yuan had been training in the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, so he was not sure if this was the first snow in the royal capital this year. However, as a child who had grown up in Redbud City Xia region, it had been a lifetime since Lin Yuan last saw snow. Lin Yuan opened the window and stretched out his hand. Chu Shui was not cold, so he only felt a trace of coolness in his palm before it immediately disappeared. After the phone call with Chu Ci, Lin Yuan felt that his previous arrangements were not thoughtful enough. It was impossible for Lin Yuan not to feel a trace of disappointment that Chu Ci could not celebrate the new year with him this year. However, Lin Yuan recalled that he had been talking to his master, the Moon Empress, about his training plan. He did not expect that as a junior he would have to have a reunion dinner with his master. There was only about a month left before the new year. Lin Yuan felt that his gains from this Abyss Dimensional Rift training were already worth the trip. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to return to the royal capital before the new year began and go to the Radiant Moon Palace to celebrate the new year with his master. For the past few days Lin Yuan had been resting in this guest house. At the same time, he had also hung the flower brocade pearls that he had nurtured in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone in his purchase with no loss store. Lin Yuan hung the flower brocade pearls, which were enough to make creation masters go crazy, in his purchase with no loss store and did not immediately start selling them. Instead, he only hung 10 pots in the store for display. Lin Yuan understood that if he wanted to use these 10 pots of flower brocade pearls to obtain greater benefits, first, he had to attract the attention of more creation masters. Lin Yuan had also put in a lot of effort to trade for these 10 flower brocade pearls. Lin Yuan chose to trade for all 10 flower brocade pearls through bartering. As for the items that Lin Yuan chose to trade for, they were the strange flames produced in the Abyss Dimensional Rift. This time Lin Yuan did not plan to choose the trading partner himself. Instead, he used the blind bartering method on the star web. Every buyer who wanted to buy the flower brocade pearls could use the strange flames that they had prepared as chips for a secret auction. After a period of time, the 10 buyers who had paid the most strange flames would each obtain a flower brocade pearl. This type of blind trade was the most torturous of all the trading methods, because no one knew how much their final opponent would have to pay. Therefore, if he wanted it, he could only desperately raise the price. Even if he managed to obtain the flower brocade pearl, he might suffer a loss because the price was too high. There was not only one flower brocade pearls for the blind trade this time, but there were a total of 10. This meant that the top 10 bidders would be able to obtain a flower brocade pearl no matter how much they bid. Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store had used the flower brocade pearls for blind trade through Star Web's official channels. This meant that the blind trade of the 10 flower brocade pearls was absolutely fair. When he decided to use this method of exchange, he already knew that the 10 flower brocade pearls displayed in his Star Web store would definitely be able to exchange for a lot of strange flames. One had to know that the flower brocade pearls rarely appeared in the market. The flower brocade pearls' target audience was creation masters, and creation masters were the small group of people with the most wealth and resources in the world. Of course, Lin Yuan had also thought of using the flower brocade pearls to exchange for the elemental shellfish. However, it was obvious that the flower brocade pearls' price could not be compared to the elemental shellfish. Therefore, Lin Yuan could only dispel the idea of using the flower brocade pearls to exchange for the elemental shellfish. If he were to announce such an exchange, even if his Star Web store was able to produce a large number of flower brocade pearls, his store would probably instantly become a joke of a man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. According to the price of around 20 flower brocade pearls was equivalent to that of one elemental shellfish. However, the exchange between phase had always been limited to the exchange between phase of the same quantity and value. It was just like how no matter how much glass a person had that was of the same value as jade, no one would be willing to use a piece of high-quality jade to exchange for a pile of broken glass. Therefore, Lin Yuan could only think of another way to exchange for the elemental shellfish. The flower brocade pearls had been on display in Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store for the past few days. They had attracted the attention of a large number of creation masters, including Class 4 creation masters. The flower brocade pearls might be rare, but once a Class 4 creation master reached the level of a creation master, it would not be difficult to obtain a single flower brocade pearl. However, for a precious resource like the flower brocade pearls, Even Class 4 creation masters who possessed the flower brocade pearls would want to store some more. The flower brocade pearls were useful to creation masters because of the dew secreted by the flower brocade pearls leaves. However, the dew secreted by the flower brocade pearls leaves was ultimately limited. If they could have a few more flower brocade pearls, then when concocting the spirit fluid, Class 4 creation masters would not have to think about how to economize on the distribution of the dew secreted by the flower brocade pearls. Lin Yuan placed the 10 flower brocade pearls in the purchase with no loss store on the table. A storm that was almost comparable to a small rare lifeform pavilion's auction blew up on the star web. Since Lin Yuan had not upgraded his purchase with no loss store, it was still a Class 1 store. However, the area of this Class 1 store was enough for Lin Yuan. This was because Lin Yuan had always taken the boutique route and not the general merchandise route. Although Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store had only been open for a few months, its reputation and points were enough to upgrade to a Class 3 store. It was only one step away from becoming a Class 4 store. If Lin Yuan had not been restricting the supply of elite spirit siphon goldfish and silver usnias, the purchase with no loss store would have been upgraded to a Class 4 store. Lin Yuan had only been operating the store for a few months, and he had not put much effort into it. Needless to say, its reputation was naturally good, and even its points were almost catching up to Zhou Jiasen's store that she had been running for nearly a decade. After Lin Yuan's Class 1 store announced that source-type items and day and night spirit silver could be used to exchange for any kind of bronze/epic fey, its reputation had already exploded. Coupled with the display of the 10 flower brocade pearls, although it was still a Class 1 store, Lin Yuan's Star Web store had suddenly become a boutique store that received much attention on Star Web. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. If it were in my previous life, my Star Web store should be called an internet celebrity store. Today's first update, end of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.